Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Equine Episode Examination. Where today we're finally getting into some new episodes here and diving into season 6 with the Crystalling. So, welcome to the season 6 premiere Triple E here. So, um, everyone wants to introduce themselves really quick.
I'm Mr. Ben. Huzzah!
I'm Matt the Shadow Man, and see, I knew that was going to happen. I knew we'd trip over someone. I'm Matt the Shadow Man. I like tripping over other people when they try to speak.
I'm Jay Smith, and I have the habit of trying to talk when making people all trip over me.
So, welcome everyone. Let's see. I think hopefully my mic's a little louder now. It was down. Yeah, today we're finally getting into season 6 here. So, with the Crystalling, the season 6 premiere of MLP. I know I didn't expect it to go on this long. So, already in the 6th season here. I can't believe it's been like over 5 years. This was obviously a very short hiatus. We didn't even make our way all the way through season 3. We'll be picking that our episode flashbacks up for season 3 on the next kind of break of episodes. There's one coming up after about 5 episodes.
And it was right in the middle of a two-parter practically, too, on top of that. It's funny considering the episode that interrupted our two-parter is a two-parter in and of itself.
Sort of.
So,
Not really a two-parter. It's just
it's not really
kind of linked. I mean, it's not like an actual two-parter.
That is very true.
Welcome back to the real Equine Episode Examination here, where we're going to talk about the most recent episode. So, if this is your first time here, I'll give you a quick introduction. Pretty much what we do is we talk about ponies. That's basically what we do. So we're just gonna kind of give our review, and what we can very much just talk about what we think about the episode. Obviously this one premiered within the past kind of 3 days here, so it's a lot shorter of a time for us to kind of talk about it than during our flashbacks. But hopefully everyone's had a chance to maybe watch it a couple times. I know I have had to watch it way too many times already. So we're just going to talk about it. We kind of go from general discussion and then we weave our way into more specific parts of the episode. I guess we'll just dive right in, because being this is a two-parter and a lot of stuff was dropped here, it's probably going to go on for quite a bit here, so don't want to delay any longer. And what's everyone's initial thoughts? Let's start out with it. What does everyone just initially think before getting into any specifics? What's your overall view of the episode?
Flurry Heart OP, please nerve. Oh wait, they've already done that.
If you were worried that M.A. Larson was about M.A. Larson leaving and no longer having big wings in this show, Josh Haber's got you covered.
So you disliked M.A. Larson and his wings. Well, good job. Now you're with something even worse.
I wouldn't say it was worse. No, serious thoughts on the episodes. I really, really liked the fact that there was two stories that kind of, they didn't necessarily like intertwine between each other, but they did work well alongside each other. And I'll say this now, I really enjoyed the scenes with Spike and Starlight.
Yeah, this was quite the different kind of two-parter than what we've gotten in past seasons. And we said that about the last season's two-parters as well, especially the opening, which was a lot different than some previous ones. But this one was even more different than two-parters that we had gotten in the past.
Yeah, it was different.
It was much more character-focused. There wasn't a ton of action in this, and more importantly, there wasn't really a lot of the main six. It was mainly focusing on a little bit of Twilight and Starlight Glimmer, which was an interesting dynamic.
Can I also say that this is the first episode premiere that we didn't actually have a beatdown of some sort of big bad?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was about to bring that up myself. This is what makes this season over unique from the other ones, is that the conflict wasn't caused by some villain, because in season 4, technically, even though we didn't have a villain, the conflict was caused by Discord. This time, the conflict was caused by was accidentally caused by one of the ponies.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I will say about this two-parter, whilst it's two stories intertwined into one, this is probably the first time that I could say a two-parter feels like it could have been two separate episodes that wouldn't necessarily have had to have been completely linked, or they could have been linked, but they could have been shown as two completely separate episodes, and it would have worked nearly as well. I think it was like this was two stories that had quite a close link, whereas before you had basically one major story that was just longer. And I think in some ways it worked better this way, because a lot of people have said that the longer stories have either padding or a rushed ending. I don't think that happened here at all. There was no sagging. If there weren't something going on in one of the stories, there was always something going on in the other story, and it seemed to sort of switch between the two. I think at really good moments.
Yeah. I would say what Tim's saying. Well, I see your point. I think it only works up to an extent, because these episodes wouldn't really work as alone, because the one of the stories problems winds up solving the first story's problem in it. So the first story of the Flurry Heart kind of story wouldn't have been able to have gone on by itself, because it required the second story, which is one of the things I like the most about it.
They could be shown separately. I'm saying that there wouldn't have been a lot of tweaks needed. There would have been some needed, but I think this is probably the first time that a two-parter has had two stories, essentially.
Well, yeah. I mean, this is really the first time that almost any episode.
You could make a reasonable argument to say that these could have been two separate episodes, but they told them in such a way that they were intertwined together. And without the one, you wouldn't be able to have the other. But I think at least it seems to me like it was two ideas for stories that were then just put into one narrative. I'm not saying it's a bad thing at all. I'm just trying to sort of surmise sort of the thinking of how this episode came out, because we've seldom had a story where there's been basically two main. We've not had an episode much. I mean, there's been sort of bits and pieces where there's been like more than one sort of narrative going on throughout the story, because in this one we have Starlight, and then we also have the Crystal Empire and Flurry Heart sort of running sort of parallel to each other, and whilst they intertwine quite a bit, there's it's just nice to see a different storytelling method in the two-parters. I mean, a lot of people will say there weren't a lot of sort of quote unquote action in this two-parter, and there wasn't, but I don't think it needed that. I think sometimes changing it up is a good thing, and I actually think the writing in this episode was really, really solid. And while there was, I think the scenes with Flurry Heart is sort of scenes we've sort of seen with babies in cartoons, a fair amount. It was entertaining, at least. I mean, Pinkie Pie looking after a baby alicorn, the jokes just kind of write themselves, so,
And she's dealt with worse before.
I'll say that overall, each time I've watched this episode over the past 3 days, I've enjoyed it more. It really has gotten better, because I can really appreciate what they've done with it, and I just really love Starlight and how she's characterized in this episode, as well as Sunburst, and I just love how all the story works together and how these two different stories come together in the end. Just overall, I like the episode when it premiered, but just on subsequent rewatches, and I'm able to pay more attention to it, especially versus like when it was first premiering, and we're all chatting and looking our heads 10 different ways, just sitting there, and I was able to just sit there and just watch it without having to worry about listening to the music and writing stuff down for that or whatever. I guess sitting down and watching it, I guess it was really, really, really enjoyable and really well executed. So any other initial thoughts? If not, we'll move on to the story.
I had something, but I sort of
I know
lost
what I
track
do want to briefly just quickly go on. I know we before we go to the story, new intro. Well, marginally tweaked intro.
Well, that's about par for the course. If you're expecting more, too bad for you.
I'm not saying. No, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying.
I know you're not. I'm just kind of speaking to people who do say that.
I don't know if we'll ever see a different song for the intro. I mean, it's now so ingrained in the show that unless a real massive fundamental change, say like even like a semi-generational shift happens, I can't see them changing the song. As for the actual intro itself, basically all they've done is inserted Starlight, and that's about it.
I was never really a fan of the idea. I mean, well, I would love to see a new intro and what new song they could churn out for her, because I'm sure it'd be amazing. I'm not really a fan of changing it up that much, because it just seems unnecessary. And it is a little weird to see Twilight without wings in the very, very beginning soon, but the whole point of the song there is that part of the song is about a flashback. I used to wonder what friendship could be. So it's
when Twilight first
came to
Ponyville. So you could say that bit's a flashback to when she first arrived anyway. So.
And I like what they've done the past few seasons, kind of slowly adding more. I mean, first they kind of add, the first edition they made in season 4 was adding Twilight, and then all of the supporting cast there as well, not just the main 6, and then in season 5, adding the castle, and they added Discord in there in season 4, and hidden in the background, and then adding Starlight to this one. It was nice, and I like her expression during that, because she's very much like this episode, very unsure about herself.
Just want to mention, I agree with, just in the chat, just saying that the CMC have got cute marks. I didn't notice that when I saw it.
Yeah,
I feel bad now.
I forgot about that one.
I mean, it's probably a very quick little thing, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they pretty much they're the same exact animation. It's just they've slapped their cutie marks on their models now. But yeah, they do they do finally have it in the intro. So, but I really like it. I like having the same intro, and they're just kind of adding a little bit more each time to that final scene, and I'm sure it saves them a lot of production budget that they can
imagine
use
if they have 20 seasons, just how many characters are going to be in that photo finish is going to need a bigger camera.
It's okay. By then, Pony will be in 4K, so we can fit more in.
What's this? We can only watch while Pony's using virtual reality headsets? What is this shit?
Hasbro will ship you a magnifying glass just so you can see your favorite character in the intro. So don't worry if you don't have a large TV. Oh, with that, let's go ahead and let's talk about the story of the episode, because it was definitely one of the more complex stories in terms of the two-parters. I wouldn't say it was the most surprising. Like I mean I could kind of see where the story was going right from the start, and how it was kind of going to conclude. But I think it was executed very well, and they tried something new with the two kind of concurring, simultaneous storylines in the episode. And them coming together in the end for the solution, and I think they executed that very well.
I also have to agree with what Tim just mentioned here in this here. Once again, we have the Crystal Heart being used and subsequently lost, and used as explosive to clear away the threat activated by same mechanism once it's recovered. But yeah, we couldn't see what was going to go wrong right at the beginning.
Well, I honestly knew what was going to go wrong because I spoiled myself, so maybe that's my fault.
well, there you have it then. So, but yeah, we do have some, like I said, we do have some references back, callbacks to both the Crystal Empire and Baby Cakes, especially with Flurry Heart coming in and Pinkie Pie trying to take care of her. I also have to admit that this is one of the few times we actually see Celestia and Luna actually get off their asses and actually work for their freaking empire. I think this is the first time no, not the first time. This is one of the first times we've seen them on screen actually fighting against something, even though they're...
Is it a flashback or a what-if scenario?
Well,
yes.
Celestia did engage in the season 2 finale with the Changelings, however.
That's true.
Yeah,
and she also
for about 1 minute.
And she also did try to help out with that falling ice thing in Equestria games as well, even though I think Spike was the one who ultimately saved the day on that.
Speaking of Spike, I'm sorry, I can't hold it in. He was written so brilliantly well in this episode. I can't stop saying how brilliantly written he was in this episode, because it's just so nice to see him have a larger role and it's just great to see him actually grow up as a character as well. I just love the interactions he has with Starlight. It's just brilliant. More of that. More. I want more of that.
I will say, in terms of what Tim's saying here, in terms of the spoilers. Well, I knew that the whole blizzard kind of thing was coming, because that was in the episode's trailer. I did not know how it was going to be caused, and it makes a lot more sense. I was just expecting Flurry Heart to just cast some sort of spell that made everlasting winter, but instead they went with her destroying the They went with more something continuity based, with her destroying the Crystal Heart, which of course was protecting the Crystal Empire, which I really liked, and that was something I didn't see coming. I will say that even if I didn't see that, I think the episodes overall, kind of like the episodes beats, are pretty predictable. At least it was for me. I mean, you can kind of see where it was going in terms of the ending, and how Sunburst is going to at some point somehow solve the problem. But like I said, how it was executed and the ride to get there was very well done and very enjoyable. And it isn't like I knew exactly what was going to happen the entire time. It's just you can kind of see where it's going. And I'm not using that to knock the episode. I'm just saying, even with knowing that, I still really, really enjoyed the episode because it was executed so great. And yeah, how about we talk about that first? This episode was written by Josh Haber, and congratulations, Josh Haber, you are the new story editor of My
You
Little
are
Pony.
the new Larson.
He's the new Megan McCarthy, Larson, Robin Zeddy.
Percy Tate.
Jason Thiessen? I think he's done some story editing.
No, Jason's always been the director.
Right.
For it. But yeah, so Josh Haber is the story editor for season 6, and of course he wrote the season 5 finale and wrote the season 6 opener. So what do you all think about that? About that revelation?
Not entirely sure. I was, getting used to the fact of Larson being the story editor, but now he's gone. I'm sure Haber will, fill the shoes quite nicely. So
it's hard to really say, because he only joined the show in end of season 4, was it?
Beginning of season. He wrote the the castle episode, the 3rd episode of season 4.
No. Are you oh yeah, Castle Sweet Castle. Yeah.
No,
Not
no.
Castle Sweet Castle. The other one.
I'm talking. It's the scary one. I forget.
Yeah. I know which one you mean. The one that is it Castlemania?
Yes, that's it. Castlevania, of course.
Castlemania, yeah. The thing is, it's kind of. I think it was building up to this point, because he wrote the season 5 finale, yes?
And he also did Friendship Games.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was coming. I'm surprised it's so soon, and I certainly think if M.A. Larson was still on the show, he would have been story editor for this season, almost certainly. But I really have no feelings one way or the other. I mean, to be honest, it's only this first 2 episodes where he's been story editor, and he wrote the episodes himself, so it's kind of really difficult to see what his fingerprints on the show will be, because it's he's not been on the show as long as some of the other writers. So
I would say that I would disagree with Tim that I don't care about who's in charge. I very much care who they make story editor. I think you're undercutting the role that they play in that. The writing is done completely separately from DHX. DHX handles the animation, the directing, the storyboarding, everything from that stage. But the initial writing and all of the scripts are done at Hasbro, and they're the ones who are kind of in charge of actually writing the scripts and writing that. And so the story editor is, of course, in charge of overseeing all the stories, providing notes, making sure all this character development is kept the same throughout episodes. because obviously all these writers are in different parts, potentially different parts of the country, all working on single episodes and not necessarily working on what other episodes are doing. So I think it's very important to have someone who not only understands the show itself and is excited about the show, but also is someone that has that knows the show, the stories, and the characters inside and out.
Could you really level accusation to pretty much anyone that's written on the show, though? I think they're all pretty excited to write for the show. So
I wouldn't want some of the newer.
I sort of understand where Tim is coming from, but I also think that whoever they choose a story is someone that should either have written quite a number of important stories for the show or has been on the show for a significant amount of time. I don't think it should be like a newbie that's like just thrown into the role, but. Like, I sort of agree with the team effort sort of mentality.
Don't get me wrong. It takes a lot of people to make an episode and make an episode great. It's very much a team effort. But just totally throwing away the story and saying I don't care who goes in that role. I think that's not true. You should care who is story editing the show, because they're going to have a big say in what happens this season and how well it works. And I think Josh Haber was like Matt was saying. I think he's kind of like the perfect one after M.A. Larson and Megan to do it, and after probably Amy as well. Of course, she left as well. To do it, and I think the proof. I mean, all of his episodes have been great. I think, but I really think the season 4 finale the season 5 finale was definitely the proof that I needed, that he has what it takes to do that role, because just look at that story and how that story encompassed like all the seasons of the show, all these villains, all these stories going all the way back to season 1 and causing that big change with the Rain Boom. He really understands the world. He's obviously very active in the fandom and in the crew. He has a lot of enthusiasm for it. He's kind of like a mini M.A. Larson, and I really think he showed a very good knowledge of all the characters. In that episode,
that is something I would agree with. Whenever I've seen episodes written by him, whilst some people's opinion of the actual stories themselves may vary, I think the way he's written the characters, I think they've always been very spot on exactly how the characters have been, in the past, and how that they would act to anything that he throws at them. So I've always felt that he's written the characters pretty well, but it's hard to really say, because again, he's not written a massive amount of episodes up to this point, so it's he's written a fair few now, and I've enjoyed pretty much all of the ones he's done. So I look forward to see what he has planned. I mean, obviously he must have some pretty good ideas, because they wouldn't have given him the role. So
everything's fine here. Oh, StreamUp sucks. It's going down. Hold on, let me restart StreamUp here. It's buffering like mad crazy.
Really, I see it on my end, or maybe it hasn't caught up to me yet.
I don't know, maybe, but I was getting a lot of bits lost.
Died like a minute ago, so it was my hub was trying to reconnect.
No, it was definitely the stream, because I could see the pending bytes going out.
I haven't got the stream up because my internet sucks. So
I might have to switch to Ustream, because it looks like StreamUp's kind of struggling right now to receive bytes. Yeah, I'm gonna switch.
Well,
let me switch.
I don't even have the stream up. I'm just listening to you guys through the Google Hangouts, and you're sounding kind of. I mean, JE sounds fine, but I mean, Rain and Matt both sound kind of staticky and a little bit.
It's not Mike. It's definitely not me. But it's just the things Tim's referring to is just stream up being stupid. Oops, shoot! No, I don't want to do CQ8. I want to do CQ7.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it was my internet or not. So I mean, I look like I still got a good connection on here. So. Give me a sec. I'll be right back.
Title here anyway. If you're watching this recorded, we pardon the interruption. I'm just waiting for
Let's
the
all
stream
go
to
to the
refresh.
lobby. Let's all
I'm certainly
go to
not taking the time to edit
lobby.
this out.
Let's all go to the lobby and go and eat some cake.
Yeah, okay, we should be
Okay,
back,
I'm
everyone.
back.
The stream
You
was.
should just put
stream up
a
was having
massive
some
picture
issues.
of cake at the during this portion of the recording.
Oh. Okay, that was weird. Okay, there we go. So, weird delay. Okay, so we're back.
Welcome
We're
back,
gonna have-
everyone.
We're probably gonna have a little bit more delay here, but hey, stream up isn't gonna work today. It's not gonna work. Was he? Well, then Tim, what you said before is different than what you're saying now. Then, because I mean, you're saying that it does matter because as long as they put someone who's good, but of course, but that's where I was differing with your original point that you didn't really care who they put there.
I mean, technically,
I
you
think
could
we're
have
pretty
someone
much
that's
saying the same
experienced
thing
on
anyway,
writing
yeah.
episodes of the show, and you could say, well, they'll give a fresh take, which is true. I mean, it's a fair point, and if they're well read up on what happens in the previous episodes of the show, it shouldn't matter. But again, I think if you've seen how DHX seem to handle things, they seem to promote up from within. So basically, the experienced people that have worked on the show a long time eventually end up in the higher roles, like we've seen with Denny Liu, Josh Haber and M.A. Larson and so on. So Megan McCarthy. So
Your original point, which I was referring to, was the line, "I don't care about who's in charge, specifically they're a team." And I was saying that, yeah, they're a team, I agree, and everyone matters in that, but I think the leader of that team is important. Especially in just the small writing team. So, what about the rest of the story?
That was interesting that they quickly tied up Starlight's conflict from the season 5 and Ellie with Sunburst so quickly and made that part of the resolution of the story here. I muted again. Thanks. As I muted, did you hear what I said earlier?
I might have missed some of it, but then again, like I said, my internet might be going a bit nuts. So, with everyone breaking up and sounding kind of a little staticky on that. So,
Okay.
Right.
Basically, I was saying how it was interesting how they quickly resolved the issue with Starlight and Sunburst that we've learned in the season 5 finale and made that part and tied that into the premiere and the resolution of the story here.
But see, yeah, some of the best moments of the episode were easily Starlight and Sunburst's interactions. I mean, facing an old man for long can obviously create a rather awkward situation. I mean, how can you just go back to being friends when you've no doubt changed as a person? I mean, do you go back to being friends in the first place? And I mean, on top of that, I mean, how do you admit like your shortcomings and shames to another person, especially someone you haven't seen in so long? So, I mean,
it's sort of a more intimate mending fences in that regard. Whereas that was more a case of what ifs and maybes. This was more defined, I think.
And then they reference amending fences here. We get I can't remember the exact line, but then Starlight says something about having trouble about being a friend for a long time, and then Twilight say something about it.
I believe she might have done. Let's see. kind of don't want to move into characterization just yet, but I do like to see how the characters are, evolving in relation to each other. Like Starlight's becoming to Twilight, what Twilight was to Celestia. Twilight's moved on from another role. I mean, she's moved on from a student. I mean, like right from the very beginning, from season 1, she was the student of Celestia, but then starting from season 4, she's moved on from student to peer, on and that same level. But now, as of season 6, she's moved on to becoming a teacher of her own. So, with the writing right here, it's not so much the characterization that I'm wanting to get into. It's actually kind of really cool how Twilight's beginning to learn into. She's actually becoming more of a, she's become the mentor now, and it's actually really cool to see how she's gonna, step into this role and become fleshed out, and teaching her lessons to Starlight. So,
I think one of my favorite parts about the entire episode was at the end of the of the episode when Twilight's sort of having this very kind of sad moment that that Starlight, her protege, in the end was able to make friends with Sunburst, which was the ultimate goal, but that she felt like she had no part in it, and of course Spike kind of consoled her and said, well, Princess, isn't that pretty much letting her go off and kind of do her own thing and solve the task on her own, and grow from that? Isn't that kind of what Celestia did for you? And I really like that parallel, because that's something a lot of people always kind of get flack for Celestia not being there for a lot of the series, and she lets Twilight do most of these things on her own, instead of being there helping her. That's something I always enjoyed and liked about that relationship, is that Celestia was kind of letting Twilight go at her own pace and learn stuff on her own there, throughout the series, and not kind of be that kind of taskmaster or what's the word I'm looking for, she wasn't like micromanaging Twilight and trying to force her to learn something. She was letting her do something on her own. And that's kind of what Twilight was doing. That's kind of what Twilight was doing at the beginning of the episode, where she was really trying to giving Starlight that huge list of stuff, and here's what I want you to do to learn the lesson. X.
She was being very Twilight.
Yeah. And I really like that parallel, because it kind of confirms something in the show that that I always saw it as in there with how Celestia teached Twilight and let her and the main six solve a lot of these problems on her own and grow because of it. And I really like seeing that be a story point and a lesson that Twilight kind of learns at the end here, for that as well.
Can I just mention that we have a cartoon episode for, youngish children that has a baby in it, and there wasn't one freaking poop joke. It's like a miracle happened. I think it's also a sign of how amazing this show is.
The real twist is all that magic was actually gas.
I mean, they sort of more focused on the fact of how much hard work it is to look after a newborn child, which it is.
Yes, but they didn't have to go to the dirty diaper joke, and yes, I'm glad on that.
Because they did that the first time. I mean, baby cakes, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
But they don't dwell on those sorts of jokes. It's not like a lot of, I hate to say this, but like Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network shows, or a good number of them, it seems to me that those types of jokes seem to crop up even more often than they did in the past. Either that, or I'm just basically trying to be a bit nostalgic with my memory of episodes. Because, let's just say I've just had a recent bad experience of watching an episode of The Problem Solvers, so,
We're glad you're still alive.
We'll have to do the same fate as Matt at this Saturday.
I think I'm coming down with the flu.
I don't know how my eyes are still working.
How about we kind of talked about this a little bit in the introduction, but what does everyone feel about the kind of the two stories here and how they work together in the end? Because that's something that's really new to the show, as we said, it's having kind of two simultaneous stories going on.
I mean,
it's something that a lot of shows do,
this-
but Pony really hasn't done that much, especially in a two-parter.
I suppose the only real example is sort of the one that we were in the middle of before season 6 started, and that was Just for Sidekicks and Games Ponies Play. But they're two episodes that functionally can work on their own. Whereas, like you say, these two stories were made to be, inextricably linked, so they can't be really forced apart.
Yeah, I think that and the other dual episode that we had in season 5 would be the two closest examples of something we would have had, to this before.
You know what it kind of reminds me of? It reminds me of some of the really good Futurama episodes. Do you know the episode Luck of the Friarish, which basically has two stories, one in the past and one in, set in now?
I mean, the one we just watched on Saturday?
Yeah, that one.
Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, isn't that amazing? But it's kind of like that. I mean, in terms of the quality of how it seems to move from one part of the story to the next without it feeling unnatural or like it's basically like a roadblock to move you to the next part of the other story. It felt very natural, and
I totally agree with
that is a tough thing to do.
Yeah, that's a good episode to compare this one to, and it's really funny that we watched that the same day. Yeah, I mean, they definitely have the same kind of thing going into it. How with the only difference being that these two stories take place at the same time. But
what can I say? I have the magic touch when I decide what we show.
Armas does bring up a good point. Every time we've seen the Crystal Empire, we've usually had like two stories happening at once whenever the Crystal Empire is involved.
See, I wouldn't count it really the Crystal. The episode, the Crystal Empire, as having two stories. Yeah. I mean, it kind of had, it did go back and forth in the same way, where it would have Twilight and Spike trying to find the Crystal Heart and going back to the ponies kind of stalling. But I wouldn't really say they were two simultaneous stories, as the ponies stalling was kind of just the side story. It would just cut back to them for some comic relief every once in a while to see how they were stalling. But I wouldn't really call that a story on its own. Much like how these are both kind of two, like Matt said, two different kind of stories that come together in the end here for the conclusion.
I think the end goal of that was the same thing, to save the Crystal Empire, whereas the end goals for both stories here were different. Obviously, the end goal for the Flurry Heart story was to, save the Crystal Empire again, whereas the end goal with Starlight was basically for her to reconnect with her past and to, basically let some demons go, basically.
Yeah. And I just really liked how that was written in, and how this seemingly unrelated story about Starlight, which turned out to be the main story of the episode when you look back on it, about Starlight reconnecting with Sunburst and her struggle to not only to do that, but overcome her past, and for him to overcome his past and shortcomings as well. And how that all very naturally and very, very well just melded with the other story in the end to come to the conclusion. It didn't feel forced or I hate that word, but I'm gonna say it. It felt really natural. It didn't feel like they were really shoehorning these two stories in. It really kind of or pulling out some Deus Ex at the end to try and solve the problem. It was very, very well. Everything in this episode was very well set up. Nothing really seemed to come out of left field. Even as Tim said earlier, even the part where she suddenly destroys the crystal heart, while that was kind of sudden, it was set up for a good part of the episode that she has this uncontrollable magical power, and oops, now we broke the heart. So, and of course that the whole thing with the heart has already been set up from all the way back in season 3 and its importance. It sounded like we lost someone, but it looks like we have two J.E. Smiths in the room now.
He dipped into the mirror pond.
The J. Smith has been doubled!
Fun.
And we can't hear him. Either he has his mic muted or He's having some issues.
Yeah, and Tim, it's even. I think it's even more than that. It wasn't just even one feeding into the other for the conclusion. It kind of both fed into each other. Where the,
Can you hear me
the
now?
whole, Yep, we can hear you now.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
There we go. That works.
Where the whole Sunburst and Starlight kind of coming to their conclusion, coming to their reconciliation, and really drove then the solution to the other story's problem, which was Flurry Heart and the crystal heart being broken and the storm engulfing. While at the same time, the whole problem over there with the crystal heart breaking and the Flurry Heart, and all the snow coming in, directly also solved the other story's problem, where Starlight's trying to be friends with Sunburst, and also them both trying to overcome their reservations about their pasts. And so both stories came together, and it wasn't just, hey, this whole Starlight thing is solved over here, and we're going to solve this other story. They both solved each other in the end, and I really like how that was woven together.
I think that's kind of what Tim was saying there. Anyway, it's kind of difficult because
it was pretty
when
much
we're
more
talking
what
and
you
when
said.
it's in, yeah, I was just gonna say it looks like pretty much the same thing to me. But
Well, I mean, I was just saying, yeah, it wasn't just
Are
one
we? I was just gonna
completing
say,
the
are we
other, they
gonna?
both
Are we
completed
sort
each
of?
other.
I think we're sort of meandering our way to it now. But are we going to start moving on to looking at the characters for the story now?
One thing that I will mention about the writing, I think this is the first time in the series where they actually used the CMC abbreviation in the show proper. Because, if you overhear Twilight when she's giving Starlight her the list of assignments she's decided on, or she said, if you listen closely, the third option is we help the CMCs help someone, but you have to listen closely because, at that point, Starlight's mind is going into the emergency alert system noise, and it's kind of hard to hear.
Yeah, and that's something that I really liked about this episode story wise, and that is, like we said, it's different from past two-parters, both with it being a lot more character centric and character building, and not really focusing on actions or defeating some big baddie. I mean, this, like we said, this is the first one that doesn't have a big over the top villain, and there's no villain.
I don't know. A baby can be pretty over the top.
But I wouldn't say that was the villain. So, but
I think some people would.
But let's see where
Shining armor, Mike.
Reading this. Gosh, I lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, and not only that this episode I think had a lot more comedy in it. It was a lot more kind of lighthearted than a lot of two-parters where they get super serious really. I mean, it had the whole storm thing, which was a very serious and very impending threat. But it wasn't as over the top serious as a lot of two-parters have been, especially like looking at like the season 4 finale. And I'm not knocking that. I like those kind of episodes too. But again, it was something different. It was a little bit more lighthearted, a lot more character centric, and had a lot more kind of comedy in it. And I like that kind of change of pace for a two-parter. Any other Yeah, it wasn't serious mode activated. Yeah, pretty much what I'm saying there. Yeah, exactly.
It was super serial.
Let's see. Is there anything else I had written for a story? Anyone else have anything else for the story discussion here before we move on to characters?
I'm good.
I think I've gotten everything.
Oh, one thing I'll save it for character. Actually, it's sort of intertwined with character, so I'll save it for then.
Well, you want to say it now because we're going to go to characters.
I was just going to say that it was nice to see, because you were mentioning some of the little callbacks. I like the real sort of callback with Spike sort of saying about things that he'd done in the past, but I also love the fact that even though he sort of mentions about saving the Crystal Empire and that, unlike, say, like prior, where it was like a sort of an ego boost for him and he probably would have sort of gone on and on about it, he's a lot more focused here and a lot more number one assistant, like kind of like the Spike in this episode reminds me very much of the Spike in episodes that I've really enjoyed him in, like Lesson Zero, the first Equestria Girls movie, and even like episodes like the Equestria games. But more like I say, Lesson Zero and the Equestria Girls movie. I think this is possibly the best writing I've seen of Spike since, the first Equestria Girls movie. I would say. I know that's really saying quite a large thing, and I'm not knocking like his episodes like sort of subsequently after that, but I just really enjoyed the way that he was used in this story, because I think that is sometimes an issue that some of the writers on this show have with Spike, is just where exactly he fits in the puzzle of a story for this show, and I think that they got him absolutely spot on for this one.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree that. I mean, he was written very well in this. I mean, and he was in a position in this episode where he's at his best in terms of kind of being the rock, I guess you could say, to the character who's the main focus of the story. And usually he's in this situation with Twilight, but here he's in it with Starlight, which offers a kind of a refreshing take on that same kind of thing where he's becoming kind of this rock for the character, because Starlight is a lot different than Twilight, and so seeing their interactions and how they work together in this episode was definitely a lot of fun as well, because it's a little different than how he would go do stuff with Twilight and those kind of episodes. Yeah, and he was very he was a little he was a little spiky at some points where but he was doing so in good faith. He was just trying to help when he was. I really loved the part where Twilight's saying, I'm sorry, I guess we're gonna have to not do your lesson here. And Spike comes in, no, don't worry, you have all the list right here. We can just go through the list and everything will be fine. And Starlight just gives him this look of death, like I'm totally going to kill you. I really liked that moment with him. And the whole thing where he the whole crystal, the whole thing with him being the hero of the Crystal Empire. I did like seeing him get more direct recognition from the people of the Crystal Empire, and just how important that he really is to them. It isn't just him having a huge ego and thinking he's important. They do think that he's a very important person or dragon to them for what he did back in the season 3 premiere, as well as the Equestria games episode as well. And I love the callbacks to those episodes as Spike is reveling in that.
Can I just mention, of course,
like someone said, sorry, really quick, and like someone said in chat a little bit ago, he didn't want to boast. Starlight pretty much coaxed him into boasting, and then after he was done, he was like, no, we got to get back on task here. We gotta go find Sunburst and stuff. So he was very much, he wasn't quite as easily distracted, and he wasn't very self-centered or anything there. Yeah, I mean, I guess Starlight is more of a friend to him than older sister. And of course, Starlight also listens to him a lot more, I think, and sort of takes his advice. Not that Twilight doesn't, but I think it's a different kind of relationship.
And I think it also shows a huge amount of trust from Twilight in Spike now, because I think say season 1 and maybe season 2, she would have never have got Spike to basically essentially take over from one of her tasks, in full tilt, and essentially he was doing Twilight's role for her in the episode at points, and that's a huge step forward for where Spike has been in the past, and I think that's great. And a lot of people complain that he is ill-treated by the show and by the writers, and that I don't think that's quite the right thing to say. I think with Spike, they've always had a slight issue with exactly what his role is within the show, at least at some points. I mean, at times he's been like, when I think at his best is when he's not been like the main focus of a story, and he's been like a rock character to either Twilight or someone else, or he works. I think he works best off other characters, not unlike Fluttershy actually in that regard. But I think to Spike's extent is that the fact that we don't know a lot about his past so much. I mean, we know a little now, but we don't know a huge amount. And I think the thing is, we only really know about the now, and a lot of the times I just basically see him as an extension of the CMC in terms of him being a kid, just basically learning his way in Equestria. And obviously we then have the interesting dynamic of him being a dragon, and obviously how that affects him with his interactions with the other characters, and hopefully we'll see sort of more on how that develops this season.
I think the staff in a way do kind of have a little bit of knowing who Spike is as a character, and I think that is also.
I don't deny they don't know who he is.
Let me continue. I'm leading into a thought here. In that aspect, is Spike is a younger brother. That is the characterization that I think that they know that he has, and he has a lot more facets than that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that's the one thing that's been consistent, and it both leads to both the things like in this episode, but also things in other episodes like his normal episodes where he might be the butt of a joke or the punching bag or something or something like that. It always happens with little brothers where they're the ones who kind of maybe get picked on or maybe the butt of different humor and stuff like that. And I think that's, even those episodes where Spike is kind of being the butt monkey, it's because he still has that younger brother kind of focus. And sometimes that can work really well where he's being the younger rock to his older sister, like with Twilight or in this case Starlight. But it can also work in the other way where he kind of gets picked on a little, or they might use him at the expense of a joke, because that's what a little brother is. And I think Lauren Foster, someone had mentioned that, where that's how she always saw him, where he is that younger brother that sometimes that can put you in the butt monkey role because of that. So even when he's the butt monkey, I've never really felt off by that. I've never disliked it, because I've always liked the jokes made, the stuff that happens at Spike's expense in there, because it's it's part of being a little brother. Yeah, this is his older sister and her damn friends.
I think I want to just quickly sort of move on to Starlight, unless anyone else has anything to say about Spike.
No.
The deathly silence says, Matt, just get on with it. So yeah, I think the interesting thing about this is the fact that both Starlight, Glimmer, and Sunburst's voice actors and actresses were ahead of Tara Strong in the credits, which I think basically shows the emphasis of how important the characters were to this particular story. I don't think we can't hear Ben. That's a problem. Anyway, I'll continue while Ben's hopefully fixing that problem.
Oops.
But yeah, I think it's...
I think Mr. Ben's over there like, no, I have something to say.
We can move back when he's fixed.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
But anyway, I think it's very telling with that in the credits. A lot of people have got a lot of reservations after the end of season 5. Because I think a lot of people could see that Starlight was going to become a more regular character. How much we actually see of her this season is still very much up in the air. I think she's going to be. I think she's going to be a pretty regular character in this season. But I don't think you'll expect to see her in every episode. But what I will say is, I liked how she was portrayed in this, and I know not everyone liked the fact that she was redeemed at the end of season 5, and some people either say, they've got, there are some legitimate complaints in saying it was a bit rushed, and some people were saying that, oh, she was, better off being a villain, but honest and truthfully, I mean, who else would? I mean, I think Starlight is a good point because I think this is not necessarily just as much a thing for Starlight to basically learn about friendship after the bitterness that she had from previous experiences, and that I think that is going to be a lot of good stories are going to come from that with from Starlight learning. But it's also not a case of just Starlight learning, but it's a case of Twilight learning too, whereas before she was basically learning and absorbing knowledge from someone as as wise and as long lived as Celestia was. Now she's got to basically impart all of the knowledge that she has learnt to to her new student now, and I think that's a really great thing for the show, because if the show just stagnated and we just ended up with a bunch of fights between Twilight and Starlight, you realize how quickly that's going to get boring. That will get boring fairly fast. I mean, you can only do so much, fighting between one pony and another before it gets old. I mean, a lot of people with
Indeed, that's the prior reason, and I bet they gave the CMC their cutie arc so the CMC episodes can be more fresh.
Same exact reason.
Yes, exactly.
All right, I should do that. Can you all hear me now?
We can.
Yes, awesome. Okay. I wasn't sure what happened there.
Yeah, and building off what Matt's saying there about Starlight. Yeah, I mean, like I said in the season 4 finale or season 5 finale when we were talking about that. I mean, really, what else are you gonna do with? Yeah, she's an awesome villain, very cunning. But I mean, what more territory are you going to tread with her as a villain? I mean, you might get some pretty entertaining episodes, but I mean, character-wise, you're pretty much done. It's just gonna be the same thing over and over again with her and Twilight having a battle of wits back and forth. So I mean, you've been there, done that. When you rather have new stories rather than the same good story repeated over and over. But with I really liked in this episode about Starlight is they're pretty much using her here as a replacement for Twilight in terms of lessons to be taught. I think there's probably a lot of lessons about friendship that they probably want to still have in the show, but they might find it a little hard to do with Twilight in her new role as Princess of Friendship. It might seem a little odd. There's still a lot of lessons that we can learn via Twilight, and we get one at the end.
But you can still do them with some of the rest of the main 6, but they've obviously shown development as well. So but I mean, they're a tight-knit close of friends right now, and having a character much like Sunset in the Equestria Girl series, that's very new to the concept of friendship, gives you a lot more opportunities to teach lessons about friendship that might not fit very well, or not. You might not be able to teach those lessons as well with a character like in the main 6 or Twilight, where they've already had a lot of interaction with friendship over the past 5 seasons. So while there's still a lot of lessons to be taught with the main 6, don't get me wrong there, I think this opens up another opportunity for more stories and more lessons to be taught that might be a little cumbersome to teach with the main 6, and I think that what they taught in this episode is one of them. And it's the same thing with Twilight having her new roles as well. It opens a lot of new opportunities for lessons and stories with her that weren't there before. So, but Starlight's kind of a fallback now, where any lessons about friendship that we can still go with her without worrying about why is Twilight learning this lesson if she's the Princess of Friendship. Let's see. What else about Starlight? Mr. Ben or J.E., do you have anything you want to say about Starlight?
I like her new new whatchamacallit, the new design where
her main style.
Yeah.
You really like her mane.
Yep.
Seems funny, they always seem to trade up for a really awesome new look when they get reformed. Look at Sunset as well. I mean, she looks like a load better after she gets reformed. Or, as she's moved to learning about friendship, I should say.
Yeah. Yeah, I like her new. Although I do miss the leather jacket.
No
Look,
stream reloaded on my side. Hold on. Somehow the stream reload on my side. There we go. I fixed that.
I can hear myself. Shut it off.
I was trying to reload the
at
chat.
least you sound British. I guess sound like some stupid American. So.
I was wondering why there was overlap. The heck.
Yeah, I really love the personality that Starlight was given in this episode, where she's really kind of struggling with her past and kind of not, hoping that people don't find out about it. It's one thing I said before, I believe on something I wrote on our discussion forum, where it really, not many people know what she's done. It isn't like other villains of the series where they're so big and bombastic and over the top with what they do. Everyone knows what they did. But in this one, she was just kind of took away the towns of the cutie marks of a bunch of ponies in a small town that no one really knew about, and then of course in the season finale when she goes and does just some drastically insane things in terms of changing timelines and more or less destroying the world because of it. Yet no one knows about that because time, is a different timeline. So and no one of course knows about what she did in the Cutie Mark village, and I don't even know how much Celestia knows about that. It would be whatever Twilight told her. Celestia may not know the gravity of what Starlight did, and that's something that they really worked with in this episode in terms of having Starlight not only struggling to make friends and struggling to move on, but really, really deathly afraid that people will find out what she's done. And she really wants to go out there. She wants to make friends. She wants to change her life, but she's really afraid that if people find out what she did in the past, that no one's going to want to be friends with her. And I love that they made that a point of her character here, and I think it was done really well. Yeah, and I totally agree with what Matt said. That's something else I forgot that I wanted to say is her previous personality hasn't been overwritten. She's still very snappy, and she's still can get very emotional. And one of my favorite things is her interactions with Spike and how manipulative she still is. Even though she's reformed, she was very manipulative in getting Spike to stop and talk about his past dealings in the Crystal Empire, acting like she knew nothing of it. And, oh my gosh, why is there a statue of you here? And finding all these reasons where she can stall. And she was being very smart and very manipulative still. And I love that they still have that in her character, even after she's been reformed here. Much like how they've kept Discord's character and all the really good aspects of him and how he loves chaos and how mischievous that he is.
It shows that Starlight has the ability to be a very good leader because she's very good at mobilizing people. Look at the fact she managed to mobilize a whole goddamn town to her whims and her ideals. As like a sort of like a leader figure or like a pony to basically follow. I think she's got all the hallmarks of being a great sort of person, a great sort of like sort of like a general sort of feel to her. She's got a lot of she's able to command authority even if she doesn't necessarily deserve or have the backing up of that thing. She demands she can make ponies do what she wants them to if she really needs them to. At least that's sort of when she's sort of at her most talented and powerful. Obviously, at the moment she's probably like her weakest sort of point in a very long time because sort of she was sort of used to getting sort of what she wanted. At least when she was at that point when she had that had the town in the season 5 premiere. And obviously she'd not been necessarily challenged about her viewpoint or her worldview of how things should be. And I think that's going to be an interesting to see as time goes on, is to see exactly where in Equestria Starlight actually fits into thing. I mean, is she gonna be a leader, or is she gonna end up basically being a sort of, you know, very strongly powerful unicorn and maybe like a mage type character? I mean, it's
I
gonna
think
be
that's
interesting to
something
see where she goes.
I think that's something that Twilight saw in her in the season 4 finale, and one of the things that Twilight was trying to do and was making a point of at the very end of the season 5. We're so many seasons now. I'm losing track of what season we're in. The season 5 finale, where she says, when she was talking about how Starlight changing one thing, the rain boom, forced the main six not to be together, and then just pretty much destroy the world, and how she didn't feel comfortable letting the fate of the world depend on just them six, just the main six, and she felt like it was just one thing could change and throw the whole thing off balance by everything depending on them, like it has in pretty much the whole series. And so she wants Starlight to go and kind of create a new main six, is more or less what Twilight was saying, how she wants to have more groups of friends that can also help out and do stuff and be powerful together like the main six are. And I think that's kind of, maybe we'll see if that's what they're trying to do with Starlight, but that's definitely what Twilight wanted from Starlight, and wanted her to be that leader and go out there and make friends and pretty much do what Twilight did and create a new main six. And maybe we have our first member of that in Sunburst here.
You know, actually, it's too bad that EJ isn't here, but I remember he was mentioning something on here, and he actually pushed this on our Discus forums, and I'm just going to go ahead and I'm just going to read this wholesale here, because I think, you know, since he says he feels it's worth sharing, I'm just going to go ahead and read off what he has here. He was saying about how, like, Sunburst was like a magic school dropout because he was good at organizing and reading spells but was terrible in their application and uses. Starlight, on the other hand, never went to magic school, so she could be considered non-gifted, you know, in quotes. But we've seen her being able to apply magic that basically goes, you know, hoof to hoof with Twilight. I mean, she's basically almost on the same level. So the most interesting thing, however, seems to lay in the fact that these two split off, walked down what seemed to be opposite paths, and then their re-meeting in the Crystal Empires led them on a crossroad of the respective other's path. On that note, the one who should be famous, Sunburst, is not, yet the one who should be a regular nobody, you know, Starlight, is making a name for herself as Twilight's pupil.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
So, yeah.
Oh gosh.
I mean, it's interesting. What's interesting is with Sunburst, it's funny. I've only sort of seen the episode sort of once, but the more I think about it, the more I really like Sunburst just as a character, just in general. He sort of fills a gap that's not quite been in the show before, where he's someone that's quite intellectual and very forthright, but he also seems to hide behind a shield, and he seems to basically lose confidence because he seems to lack skills that other ponies around him may have had, that he feels that he either struggled with or just didn't, you know, just completely lacked. But you can tell that he is an extremely knowledgeable pony about magic, whereas the actual, like you say, like EJ was saying, his application is very poor. But what I really like about him is that he's not as much of a shut-in, I feel, as what Moondancer was in Amending Fences. He still went out in the world to find out things about magic, even if it was just going to like another library or something. Whereas I feel Moondancer was a lot more of a shut-in than he was. I think basically Sunburst's biggest problem is confidence.
I think the main difference between him and Moondancer is he actually tried and failed in magic school, where Moondancer didn't even try. She just kept as a shut-in in with her books and read. He did that. I mean, he also tried, you know, he went and studied with Celestia, but he just couldn't do anything. He had all this knowledge, but he didn't have the magical ability to apply that knowledge, unlike Starlight. And I love how they both, him and Starlight, played off each other, because they're kind of like two peas in a pod here. Where Starlight then does have all of that magical ability, and she's, you know, almost can compete with Twilight, as we saw in the season 4 premiere, where Twilight had to pretty much talk her down, and she couldn't like fight against her because she was so powerful. Or on the other hand here, Sunburst is very, very, I mean, might be more probably is more magically knowledgeable than Twilight is. And reads even more. I mean, look at him, how he was even able to solve the problem and find the solution to the problem where Twilight couldn't. Because he's just read so much and he knows so much about magic, but he just doesn't have that magical ability within him to actually to do anything. And I really love that characterization of him, and that's something I wasn't expecting in the episode from him. I knew he was in the episode. I didn't expect them to go that route, and I really like it. And I think it's something that's also very relatable to people and in the real life here, being very knowledgeable at stuff but maybe not being actually very good at doing it. And that's something that I know I can relate to, and a lot of people can relate to.
Wow.
That kind of feeling.
You were really breaking up really down my end.
You were very breaking up on my end too.
You sounded absolutely fine.
Okay, good.
It's just something on my terrible internet for me to say that.
That was really robotic.
I'm probably gonna have
That's
to. I'm probably gonna have to head off now anyway because it's getting pretty late for me. So,
Well, thanks for
got to be
joining
up
us for
early.
the bulk of it here.
Take care, everyone.
Have a good bread.
Sleep well, Matt.
Let's see. Gosh, it's trying to keep up with what everyone's writing here in the chat too. So sorry if I'm missing everyone's comments here. I do want to go back to one thing I saw that Dark had posted, and he was talking about comparing it to comparing Starlight to Sunset Shimmer, and he said, oh, but she fits Sunset Shimmer's role. What's the point of having her if Sunset, and stuff like that? And you make a good point. Well, I wouldn't call the Equestria Girls movies not canon. It's a completely separate universe. So. I think they want to keep those two things separate, and just for probably logistical reasons, because it's hard to, you have different teams working on these, and it's just adding one more thing to do on the pile of things to do. If you try and make things concurrent between them and having Twilight teach stuff to Sunset, this gives the writers the ability to the ability to have that mentor role for Twilight, but have it in the main series without having to kind of shoehorn Sunset in from the other universe. And so I like it. I like how they have it. And plus Sunset's already kind of completed her arc in the other one, and she is more or less already the new Twilight of the Equestria Girls movies. And she's filled Twilight's role in that, and she's even teaching friendship to other people, like the alternative universe Twilight and the friendship game thing. And I think while Sunset is also a very powerful unicorn, I think Starlight is much more much more smart. I don't want to say smart, but she's a lot more sly, and she's a lot more manipulative and cunning than Sunset is. When Sunset is, much like her name and her personality implies, is very kind of forceful, kind of brute force kind of person. Where Starlight's a lot more mischievous and kind of spy-like, and what's the word I'm looking for? She's not quite as bombastic as Sunset is. Yeah, pretty much that what Tim's saying. Let's see.
Okay, well, I'm hoping that it doesn't go anything bad like now. The Google Hangout was running ridiculously slow. I mean, everything was just... I don't like if it's just my connection or not.
I don't know. I mean, everything seems fine on my end, more or less.
It could probably... I don't know. Let me check something real fast.
Oh yeah, as Dark was commenting, but their relationship and their conversation, it was definitely meant to be awkward, especially since they're both trying to keep their secret, kind of like the past they're ashamed of, here, and it's just so funny, and I just loved how both Starlight and Sunset were written in that scene where they both think very highly of the other one and think that this other pony here is just so successful and just doing so much more better than I am, and here I am, either struggling with who I am, and when they both are having the same problem, but trying to hide it in that very awkward kind of situation there. I really liked how that was played out, and how they both kind of were able to come together in the end and help each other out, because of course Starlight comes in, and she's the protege to the princess of friendship, and of course she doesn't even think of that as a big role or anything for herself. She all she can see is her failures, and so and Sunburst is of course really impressed with that. And the other way around with Starlight thinking that Sunburst is some great powerful wizard that he went off to be, but of course he failed at that, and that never happened. One of my favorite lines of dialogue between the two is definitely when they're finally kind of letting all their emotions out and coming to terms with not coming to terms, but they're both admitting both to each other and themselves kind of what their pasts were. And I love how Starlight just goes through this whole long thing of all these bad things she's done and doing all these bad things. And the one thing that Sunburst, after a pause, says is, "Oh, you traveled through time," and I really like that line. And just how that whole thing of dialogue was set up is that's the thing he picked out from all the stuff that she did, and I think that really did help. That helped Starlight there as well. And yeah, Starlight was ridiculously adorable in this episode.
Speaking of ridiculously adorable, are we going to get the Flory Heart?
Oh yeah, eventually, yeah.
Oh,
Let's
ridiculously adorable.
I'm just going to throw this here. The obvious joke.
Was Twilight's list really proven to be correct? I thought on the end it really what they tried Twilight's list, and it gets led to her to nothing there. Really in the end it took Starlight going on her own and deviating from Twilight's list to really find her own way, and I thought that was kind of one of the points of the episode, is that Twilight was there to guide her, much like Celestia guided Twilight, but in the end it was up to Starlight to kind of deviate from that checklist and find her own way to the resolution, and she was able to do that by trusting him, especially in the end when they're trying to figure out what's wrong, and how to solve this problem. And he comes back, and when they find out that he isn't the big wizard, and I really like the whole thing too, where she's like, I don't really care that you're not a big wizard, or they both didn't care about each other's shortcomings, and they were able to look past them, and that's another good point of the episode that I liked in the characterization.
Oh, come on, Firefox, knock it off. Sorry, I had some problems with my browser.
Yeah, with all the snow, ski is fitting. Starlight knows it's not the size of the horn; it's how you use it. That's very true, and in kind of an off sort of way. That she did suggest that, but not maybe in the same not in the same way that it turned out to be in the episode. I guess we might as well move on to Flurry Heart if everyone wants to talk about Flurry Heart. I don't really have a lot to say about Flurry Heart. I mean, she's done. It's gonna be it's kind of interesting to see what they do with Flurry Heart this season, because as an infant, there's only so much characterization you can give them. And I think they gave her, the basic stuff that we know that she's very powerful with magic. She loves Pinkie Pie, and it is a little wild, like all babies are. But I'm not sure really how they're going to be able to use her going forward. It definitely could use her in similar aspects as how they did in this episode, where she's more kind of being used as a plot device for the story of the episode. But I mean, what does everyone think of her character? I mean, anyone has anything to say about her in the character discussion here? Anything? Everyone seemed to be wanting to get to Flurry Heart.
Thank God she got depowered at least.
I really can't say anything about the baby myself.
The baby.
I did laugh at the fact that the baby Flurry Heart was essentially humping Pinkie Pie's face, like right there. I had to stop and stare. I was like, wait a minute, was she humping Pinkie? I couldn't help but laugh at that.
Speaking of Pinkie, I did like the continuity with Baby Cakes, and how Pinkie Pie really was kind of taking the lead with actually kind of watching over the baby, and they kind of trusted Pinkie with as one that was going to keep an eye on the baby along with Shining Armor, which I like a little bit of continuity there. And of course, the Flurry Heart just absolutely loved Pinkie so much that at one point when they were pulling her away from Pinkie right before the Crystal Heart broke. And that was actually kind of what led to the Crystal Heart breaking was Pinkie. And that Flurry Heart really liked Pinkie. And when they were trying to separate her from Pinkie, she got really mad. And that's when, that whole thing happened where eventually the Crystal Heart broke because of that.
And no, I've just lost train completely.
Oh, well, dang.
You could hear me, right, J.E.? Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Everything is just... Alright.
I guess we can talk about Flurry Heart in the not necessarily in the essence of her character, but in the essence of how she is an alicorn, a baby alicorn that has been born an alicorn. We can. Anyone have anything to discuss with that aspect?
I do happen to think on something here. Let me go. This was something else that EJ has also wrote. Perhaps all things that rocked was Celestia's revelation that no alicorn has ever been born in Equestria now. Now, the two sisters, both Celestia and Luna, were originally not from Equestria, and before actually came by actually after Celestia and Luna came by. That's what I meant to say, because the original founders, Commander Hurricane, putting head Princess Platinum, and since they came from someplace else, and they were actually asked to become the rulers of Equestria itself. Now, if we go off of that, then Celestia's statement is still technically true. No alicorn has been born in Equestria until Flurry Heart came along. Now, this does not negate the idea of Celestia and Luna being born alicorns. It's just that on note of this, and don't really know about that.
Yeah, I mean, it really seemed to me like it was obvious that their baby could potentially be an alicorn. I mean, a lot of people a lot of people were surprised by that apparently, but I mean it's genetics. So the mother is an alicorn, so is it? I wouldn't. It doesn't surprise me in any sense in terms of the world. But it seems like it is something that has not really happened in Equestria, probably just because all of the alicorns that we've known in the series aren't married or in a relationship or anything. So it hasn't really happened, I guess, because really Cadence is the first one to really be in a marriage as an alicorn. Yeah, I mean, and they said specifically that Flurry Heart is not something that Hasbro mandated. That is something that the story team created, and Hasbro, of course, embraced. I mean, come on, new alicorn. Think of all the toy possibilities, but it was not something that was mandated because it was a toy. It's mandated because, as Tim said, it seems a very natural progression. Cadence and Shining are in love. They get married in season 2. Obviously, eventually, they're going to have a baby. That baby's going to be a princess, and it has a good chance of being an alicorn because Cadence is an alicorn. So, I mean, to me, it makes logical sense.
So, funny enough, then they had the Princess Skyla doll a couple of years back, which kind of made us thought that was going to be their kid.
Yeah, and of course, that's another thing where the toys don't necessarily dictate what's in the show. Where we never saw Skyla. Sorry, people. Flurry Heart's a much better name, and I like how it relates to what transpired in the episode as well.
Yeah. Like I kind of like Shining Armor's quote there. We're thinking Flurry Heart so that we episode or what happened today. Oh, good. I never did that.
What the fuck was that? You're breaking up
you're
there.
Breaking up.
But
yeah,
you're breaking up there. But you did more than just turning into a robot. You got auto-tuned, and it sounded like you were singing. Oh, that was beautiful. Someone needs to take that audio clip and make a remix out of it.
I think there's really one wrong with either my internet or my sound, because every time I'm getting pinged, my pings are coming through really choppy as well.
Oh, really? Even
on
the
top
pings?
of
That's interesting.
Even the pings are coming. Yeah, even the pings are coming in really choppy.
I'm wondering if it's something more than internet then, because I would think it would just be your internet, but if the pings are, that's weird. Yeah, I can hear that. That's really choppy.
Going on here.
Mr. Penn is Gladys confirmed.
Let me dig on something. I'll be right back.
Brilliant. Oh my god. But I'm interested to see how they where they go with Flurry Heart in the series, because there's really only so much you can do with a baby character. I mean, there's only so much character you can give them just because they're a baby. So I mean, it would be hard to make an episode that's focused on the baby. Like I said, really the only thing I can really see them using her for is as a vehicle, sort of like the cutie map. Obviously the cutie map doesn't have any character, but either. So, but using her as a vehicle, much like the cutie map, to tell stories. So it would be a story about just random ideas, just like Shining Arbor having trouble doing something with stuff like that. It's something that involves Flurry Heart, but she is more like the plot device rather than a character focus on the show. And
makes you wonder how they'd use Flurry Heart again, considering Sunburst gave him the spell to teach him how to control her hours, so it's not like they'd have another event like this anytime soon.
But of course, there's other challenges with raising a baby. But
Of course, Shangar has it easy because he can just have the castle guards all up do the rough stuff for him.
Yeah, and it's I mean, really, like Tim said, barring a time skip, I mean, unless they pull some sort of card like alicorns age faster as babies, and, you know, that could be a reason why we could potentially have her become a small foal at some point, while the CMC still remain kind of at a stagnant age just because she's an alicorn. I mean, they could technically pull a card like that, maybe. But I really think this season, you know, whatever. I mean, I'm hoping she's still there for a couple episodes because it would feel weird to just see her in the beginning. But I'm assuming there's probably going to be an episode or two involving Cadence and or Shining Armor that involve Flurry Heart, or maybe even Twilight, involving Flurry Heart as a plot device for the episode. Or I would love to see an episode. Oh, you know what I want to see? I want to see an episode of Cadence and Twilight's busy and Cadence and Shining Armor have to do something, and so Celestia and Luna have to babysit Flurry Heart.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
That would be a fun episode.
Though technically, would they stick it on Twilight because he's the aunt?
That's why I say if Twilight was busy as well, and Pink.
Yeah.
Everyone's busy. I don't really think there's much else to talk about with the baby, because much like we're talking about here, she was kind of just a plot device in this episode as well. Of course, they were able to give her a little more characterization in this episode because we don't even know her, so they can at least introduce the basics of that. Yeah, exactly, Tim. Much like the map episodes are a plot device for being able to get certain members of the main six together for episodes, and giving them a reason to let's just have these two characters in an episode. It's going to be maybe potentially used as a reason to have a Shining Armor or Cadence episode, without kind of having to shoehorn them in and find a reason why Shining Armor and Cadence are in this episode. I forget. I think it was Cadence that Big Jen was talking about in the interview he did with Equestria Daily. I remember he was talking about there was a character that he felt was very hard to include in the show, just because they've had trouble finding a reason to include them. And I'm pretty sure, I'd have to go back and double check, but I'm pretty sure he was talking about Cadence, and that's why you don't see her or Shining Armor in a lot of episodes, because they were finding trouble to have a reason to include them. And so maybe, like Tim is saying, this is going to be a reason to have an episode based around them, without finding another reason to shoehorn in.
Okay, I think something's wrong with the actual plug itself, because I was asking him if he was in the game, and he's just... So I was like, okay. So, are you having any problems with the internet at all? He says, no, not any more than any usual. So I'm like, okay. So, because I was saying, I was having some problems with the Hangouts with everyone acting really choppy and robotic, and then I'm coming through all like auto-tune robots, so...
Let's see. That's the real twist. That's where Celestia and Luna came from. One of the things I was kind of want to talk about in story, and we can kind of do that here in character, is
Although considering that Flurry Heart is an alicorn, and considering how long Celestia and Luna lived, it'd be an interesting thing if they do another time travel and Twilight ends up in the future and we see an adult Flurry Heart after everybody else has died off.
I'm really interested story-wise to see where they take everything that's happened in this episode for this season, because unlike some previous couple seasons episodes, particularly the season 4 and season 5 episodes, where the premiere has directly set up events both throughout the season and in the finale. This one doesn't seem to directly set up an event. Like with the season 4 premiere, obviously we had the whole key thing set up, which had multiple episodes throughout the season leading to the finale. With the Starlight Glimmer episode, it both set up the cutie map, which had multiple episodes throughout the season, as well as Starlight Glimmer, which was also in the finale. It'll be I'm interested to see where the season goes in terms of any sort of season-long kind of arc, and then what they utilize for the finale, because they didn't set up anything story-wise, at least that we saw or can know of, but they did set up a lot of the things character-wise. So it'll be. I'm really interested to see how they're going to include Starlight this season, and includes Sunburst this season, and what their roles are going to be going through the season and going into whatever the finale winds up being. And if anyone missed it, there was a changeling at the end of the episode flying through the sky, and I'm trying to decide if that was just a joke or if that's a foreshadowing for maybe future events this season. But there was a changeling flying at the very, very last shot when the train is traveling away from the Crystal Empire. It's very hard to see. It's just a speck, and you can really only make it out in the HD 1080p iTunes version. But it is a changeling that is flying towards the Crystal Empire, and we know how they like love a lot. So. Could it be a scout? Could it be maybe the changeling is just like a bug and it's just flying towards the light to his death? Or maybe it's the changeling from episode 100 that's just going about its business like usual. But I did want to point that out, because that's something that who knows, maybe that's something we'll see plays into a point future in the season. And if it is, big props to them for including, because that was one of the subtle. That was almost more subtle than the little Starlight Glimmer appearances that we got in the 2 episodes during the season. But hey, but from now on this season, if we're in the Crystal Empire, don't trust anyone, because who knows? Anyone could be a changeling for the rest of the season.
The baby was a changeling.
Dun dun dun. Maybe it's a changeling baby. Maybe Cadence has actually been Chrysalis the entire time, and it's a changeling baby. That would be the real twist. Oh my god.
That would explain the changeling in the background, probably.
Yep.
Did anyone notice that?
My wife has been Queen Chrysalis the entire time. That sounds like a setup to an episode of Jerry Springer. Yeah, who knows? And we're getting a little into speculation here. I don't want to get too far into that, but I did want to point that out if anyone missed it in the episode. How about Twilight? Let's talk about Twilight and her character and character development in this episode. What does everyone have to say about her?
Just making sure that wasn't me.
Oh, was that Mr. Ben? I guess it is, yeah. Just trying to see if anyone says anything in chat, because unfortunately we're a little delayed here using Ustream, so it takes a little time for the chat to catch up. Yeah, a lot of stuff for Twilight I've already said in terms of the lesson she learned at the end of the episode, in terms of letting Starlight, still being a mentor and teacher to Starlight, but being, I guess, being more of a mentor to her than being a teacher. A teacher is someone who's going to teach directly, like you would have in school, whereas a mentor is someone who is going to let you go out and do your own thing, but be there for you and give you advice and give you direction. And so she kind of gets that little thing about being less of a teacher, like she's talking about throughout the entire episode, and being more of a mentor for Starlight. And I like that little bit of development for her, and realizing that this is something that Celestia did for her, and how it worked out very well for Twilight, obviously. And so going forward, she doesn't have to always be there with Starlight. She doesn't have to prepare a list of something of how she's going to do a lesson, but she can let her direct her to the problem and let her find her own path to the solution. And I think that's one of the craziest things about this episode, like I mentioned earlier, is just how different it is. And that I'm all alone here now. I'm so lonely here. But that is that how even though Twilight was a major part of the episode and was a major part of the other story, really it Twilight wasn't there that much in this episode, especially compared to previous two-parters. I mean, almost every two-parter almost has had Twilight as the main focus of the episode. The only one where that might not be as true would be the season 5 premiere, where it focused a little bit more on Fluttershy and the other townsfolks and having them solve the problem. But even more than that, in this episode, it focused a lot more on Starlight, and that's something we can actually see in the voice acting credits, where Starlight, or Kelly Sheridan is actually the first voice actor listed in the credits, even above Tara Strong, which almost never happens. So you can see how much more this episode focused on Starlight even more than Twilight, and I really like that.
Yeah, they done that before, where Tara another actress was credited before Tara, but then again, those were on those episodes where it was plainly focused for another character other than Twilight.
I'm talking. I should be more specific. I'm talking specifically about two-parter episodes here. Obviously, Twilight isn't in every episode, so either. Gosh, what else about Twilight? I haven't got a chance. I wrote up a big thing about episode that I was going to post on our discussion forums, which I actually get time to finish it, but I didn't get to Twilight in it. Maybe I did here. Oh, I did get to Twilight. Let me see if there's anything that I'm missing in my head here. I mean, and also just kind of her development throughout the episode, where she goes from being extremely overexcited to teach Starlight her first lesson at the beginning, to how she is at the end of the episode. There, she goes through quite the change by the end of the episode with that. Okay, all that other stuff there I've already said. Yeah, even Pinky, who kind of turned into a lot of was a lot of the comic relief for the episode and how she was acting. Even then, she got a little bit more fleshed out than just that, in terms of her being able to deal with the baby, and even to the point where she gets a little over her head again. I love the part where the facehugger part where Fleur Herrick just kind of teleports right onto Pinky's face, and she just starts screaming like crazy. And yeah, the main six really don't have much like the season 4 finale. The main six really were barely there, and I wouldn't say that they're. I know a lot of people give a lot of episodes some flack, and I can agree with them for certain episodes where the main six seem very shoehorned into an episode, like they didn't need to be there, for that episode. And there's a lot of single episodes where it seems like they're trying to get some of the other main six into the episode where they really don't need to be there. For the overall story, the overall story of this episode, I think most of the main six didn't need to be there, but they had to be there because it wouldn't make sense for them not to be at the baby's crystaling. So, like, for the overall story, they're not very important to the story at all, but they had to be in there, and I think they did weave them in there pretty nicely, and they each have their kind of little moment to do something in dealing with the rest of the crystal, the people that have gathered for the Crystal Empire, or dealing with the baby, etc., etc. So they were at least put in there nicely, since they kind of had to be there attending. Yeah, and a lot of just commenting on what Tim was saying in chat, a lot of with Pinky's antics were crazy, and a lot of people sometimes complain when she just gets like that. But I mean, in reality, the reason she's like that here is because she's entertaining the baby. I mean, she's taking care of the baby, and the baby really liked her. So, see, I can see someone being secretly the father, but I think being secretly the mother is a little bit harder to pull off. Yeah, exactly what I was saying there, Tim. They're not really important to the story itself, but the event itself required their presence there. So you can't make that as a complaint for the episode, because I guess that's basically what I was trying to say there is that if someone's using that as a complaint in the episode, you can't use that as a complaint for this episode, because they had to be there. Yeah, I thought the whole relationship between her and Pinkie Pie, it's funny because Twilight's gonna have some competition as her aunt, because I think she might like Pinkie Pie more than Twilight. Yeah, she just kind of summons that mirror. I don't know. She must carry it around just so she can look at herself. I did like the little shield that Shining Armor brought up. That shield that he used to deflect the attack. I also like the weight of that scene where it really puts a lot of guilt on Starlight for causing that, because of course it's the baby's fault more or less for shooting out the beam. And then, of course, everyone else is reflected too, but then it's Starlight's final reflection is the thing that shatters the heart. And I really, really like that they did that, because they kind of made it a focus from the beginning, where Starlight's even before, we're talking about bringing Sunburst into the picture, Starlight's very afraid when she's researching the Crystal Empire and seeing how important everything is and how important the ceremony is. She is very afraid that she's going to mess something up, because that's who she is now. She's very afraid that she's going to screw something up and ruin this new life that she's trying to build for herself. And then of course she winds up being the last even though it's not really her fault, she winds up being the last person to reflect, or last pony to reflect the beam into the Crystal Heart to destroy it. So you can really kind of see how that kind of weighs more heavily on her there. I said the heart. I forgot that was the book. I'm getting those two scenes confused. Yeah, the book. The book that had the one spell that Twilight thought could save them. I really like that about Sunburst's character, where Twilight was incorrect, where that spell wouldn't. He's like, no, that spell won't do anything on its own, and he has to kind of bring everyone together and give them their own. I really like how they made that kind of his personality in it, where he knows a lot about magic, but he can't execute it. So he kind of winds up being sort of like a magical coordinator there, where he knows all these things, like these spells are going to work, and you do this, you do that, you do that, and really kind of assumes a leadership role in that aspect with the magic, even if he's not really a powerful wizard himself. And yeah, I think we can move on to Shining Armor and Cadence. We haven't really talked about them much themselves. Always good seeing more of them in the show. Especially Shining Armor, because we have had a couple episodes with Cadence, but we haven't had a lot of episodes with Shining Armor, so it's good to see more of him. And of course, seeing him all sleep deprived at the beginning, after taking care of the baby, was hilarious, and Andrew Francis did a good job of acting that part out. So what else is what does everyone else have to say about Shining Armor and Cadence? And wow, as we're going through all these characters, I'm realizing how many characters they actually did include to have semi-major parts in this episode, and it really, I don't think any of them really seemed shoehorned in or oh gosh, or you know, like they were trying to rush things to fit all these characters in. So I guess what I'm trying to say. Oh yeah, I was planning on this taking a while, and definitely like I said at the beginning, that this more than any other two-parter, this two-parter is really focused on character and character development rather than action and story. So yeah, I spent a lot of time on this section.
It just goes to show how much this show actually has strong character to talk about.
Definitely, I think it definitely is one of the show's strongest assets, more than anything else, is the character. It was something that they built on. Lauren Foster and the rest of the creative team really focused on and built from the beginning, and they've been able to use that foundation to really, that rock hard foundation of characters to really expand the characters in the show really well. Yeah, I loved how dorky he was really being in this episode too. And just how lost and unprepared he is as a father, which I think really does fit with his character. He's just so over his head. Like he's just chasing the baby around. The baby's just teleporting everywhere, and he's just watching him try and take care of the baby was hilarious.
The baby's gonna drive him so insane that he's shedding a lot of quote unquote of liquid pride. Though it's not really pride in that sense.
See, so what else? Everyone, what about him and Cadence? Anything else that anyone has to say about them? I'm trying to think of some stuff to say about Cadence. She was definitely handling the lack of sleep a lot better than her husband was, though. She didn't show many signs of being sleep deprived. Of course, she has experience with that from trying to protect the Crystal Empire in the season 3 premiere, and she was really disheveled after that.
Well, I think that shows that considering Shining Armor and Cadence took care of the baby and haven't slept, that shows that they're staying true parents, not having the castle guards. The castle guards are a nursemaid, do all the work for them.
Yeah, but of course the baby was just born, so they're like that for now. We'll see how long that lasts. Yeah, and that's about what I was going to say, Tim, too. I was just trying to see if anyone else had anything that would just counteract with the point where I think Shining Armor had a little bit more screen time in this than Cadence, at least in terms of what he was doing. You know, he had more of a presence in the episode and the story, which I was fine with because, like I said, I think we've seen more of Cadence than Shining Armor in the show in the past couple of seasons, and we've had some episodes with Cadence and Twilight, but not really much with him, except in the last season episode where he was there briefly at the end, and the one where Pinkie Pie knows that episode.
Yeah, but so they set this one up. They foreshadowed this one.
Yep. And that's something I actually wanted to comment on, that in the story part that I kind of forgot, and I do that. I was really surprised that they got when I heard about the premise of this episode that they were getting to this fast. I was kind of expecting the baby to be later in the season, not in the first part. And they were, have maybe Cadence be pregnant through part of it, but man, they got right to the bat in this episode, and this show and the staff of the show and the writers are really good at doing that, and like how they tackled the castle right at the beginning of season 5, and that whole thing, and how they tackled Twilight being unsure about being a princess and having struggled with flying and all that right in the first episode of season 4. Here, right in the first episode of season 6, we're going to deal with the baby. The baby's being born and what that means. We're also going to deal with Starlight and what her purpose is now and how she's feeling, and give her some character development. And we're going to have her reunite with Sunburst in this episode as well. And they really just brought out all the guns of what people were expecting and just threw it into this episode and mixed it all together in just a really good story and really good, and two good stories that came together really nicely. But they really didn't waste any time getting to those plot lines. But yeah, I was really surprised to see Flurry Heart and the born in the premiere. How much time has passed since the season 4 finale, and the premiere? Well, I guess technically it wouldn't be the finale that we should be looking at time passing. It would be the one where Pinkie Pie knows, because that episode made it sound like it wasn't too long after conception, or at least after they had found out that she was pregnant, because she obviously didn't show any signs of pregnancy at the time, so it was very early in the pregnancy. So how much time? And we didn't see Cadence since that episode, so obviously he was being raised or whatever you want to say during that time. But how much time passed between that episode and this premiere? And also, more importantly, how much time passed between the season 4 finale and the premiere as well, and just in terms of what has Starlight gone through during that time?
Maybe they sped up Cadence's pregnancy because it would save them the trouble of making a pregnant Cadence render.
See, that's something I've always said. I don't think that would be a reason for anything, because it's really not that hard for them to go into the character model and stretch the belly. Yeah.
Well, that was
a
joke.
I see what you're saying there, yeah. Maybe it's just because it's a magical baby.
Yes.
How long do ponies how long does it take for ponies to do that in real life, to have a baby?
It's funny because I think we asked that question back when we did the E for the one and we're Pinkie Pie knows. 11 to 12 months.
Tim, I think the conception happened on the train ride over to see Twilight in the episode.
Yeah, 11 to 12. In real life, a horse pregnancy lasts 11 to 12 months. Okay.
But I don't think it was in the midway point. I think it was very, very close to conception based on the tone and how excited they were to tell her. And just also how Cadence showed no sign of anything in that episode. I think it was very, very, very close, like right after, close to when they found out that Cadence was pregnant. I don't think it was in the middle or anywhere close to the middle of the pregnancy when they told her. I don't think they would keep that secret from Twilight for that long either. They were very, very excited to tell her about that, and I think they would have told her very soon after they had found out. So, I mean, it makes you wonder how much time has passed, and also just how fast pregnancies are in this in this series. But yeah, that's pretty much the reason why I thought this wasn't going to happen so quickly, because I assumed that they would take some time to have before they had her have the baby, just because time passing and all that. But time has never really meant much to this series, and for good reasons. How about the guy with all the pins? I like the princess. Someone actually made one. So I saw on Twitter. Someone actually made within a day. Not even a day. Within 7 hours, made a replica of that Princess Twilight sparkle pin that guy was wearing. That's pretty awesome.
This fandom does move really quickly.
Hey, Mr. Ben.
I'm back. Apparently, so I'm hoping it stays fixed this way, and that I don't have to, that we don't have any, stuttering or so.
There's still a little bit, but I can at least understand you now.
Yes, finally. Okay, cool.
So hopefully it stays at that level.
Yeah, same here.
I'm just joking about that guy. I was just trying to pick out a character that we're not going to be able to really talk about in the character discussion section. It was a joke.
Let's talk about all the old pony. Okay, even when we're getting the characters we can't talk about, let's talk about all the impatient pony. That old lady pony who wouldn't budge, even though there was a blizzard forming around him.
They've been through worse. I'm just trying.
I believe EJ was mentioning how. Yeah. I think that he mentioned how the old mare just didn't sound like an old mare. She sounded more like a young mare in an old mare's body.
It's funny because this is gonna go perfectly because the next section here is voice acting. That's something that kind of threw me off with her. She had a very young voice. And this is actually perfect here to transition to the next section because the two characters that we haven't talked about in this episode would be Twilight's parents, who make an appearance at the end and also get a speaking role at the end, which is they haven't talked before. And this not only marks the first time they've talked, but also it's the first time in the series that we know of that Tara Strong has voiced someone other than Twilight Sparkle, because she was the voice of her mother in this episode. And Andrew Francis, the Shining Armor's voice actor, was the voice of the father.
They get their voices from their parents.
Well, that makes sense. Like Tim said, like daughter, like father, like son.
Yeah, it's a good thing I knocked out those trivia. I didn't redo those trivia slides because that one's not going to be true anymore.
And we lost Ben again.
Yeah, we still have another. I don't have anything on the calendar until 8:30, so.
Till Rebels.
Yeah. I made sure of that because I knew this was going to go on for a bit. But yeah, it was great seeing that her parents again in this episode at the end, and actually having them have a voice. And I think Tara did a great job voicing the mother. It sounded like kind of an older Twilight, and it was just like the perfect voice choice for that she chose for her mother there. Yeah, I really like the line where we want to choose a name. We don't keep calling her the baby.
Let's say she comes up and she's like, "Come here and come see your grandmare." I don't know.
You're feeling better? Okay.
Oh,
sorry, my cat.
I hear it's in the background.
I was afraid I'd have to cancel because he was getting sick or something earlier, but thankfully he seems to be doing better.
That's good.
Yeah, I do have to say that Echo Tim's guy. I really do think that Kelly was really the MVP of this episode. She just did such a fantastic job playing Starlight. I mean, she did a fantastic job playing Starlight last season too. But I mean, just this episode and this new Starlight that we're seeing is very unsure, kind of awkward, very nervous Starlight, and she did a very, very great job portraying that character on the screen. And while still maintaining that mischievousness with with Spike at sometimes, her and Kathy as Spike, I can't discredit them, and I can't credit them enough for that, because I really do think that Spike and Starlight and their interactions was one of the best, if not the best, part of this episode, and it was done really, really well, and in a large part is because of the voice acting in that. And yeah, and Sunburst's voice actor was just perfect. I wasn't sure what they were going to go with there, but they just found the perfect voice for him. It's kind of geeky and awkward, but it has a really good. I just really like the sound of his voice. It was really a really good choice, and I guess fit his look and his character so well. And I really hope we see more of him in the this season, because I really enjoyed him, and just his delivery of those really awkward lines where he keeps having to correct himself as a wizard was really well delivered. Yeah, and how he delivered, that's exactly, Tim was exactly what I was saying. How he delivered all those emotions was just so perfect.
So I remember Matt was joking about in the chat room, was like, the wizard, he's basically Daffy Duck then.
Okay, I'm glad you're feeling better. Oh, okay, now you're gonna bite me. Okay.
If he's biting you, he's definitely feeling better.
He's feeling better. That's one thing I did look is that I wasn't sure if this, because I didn't recognize the name, so I wasn't sure if this was his first episode with Pony. But he was a voice of one of the McColts last season. That was his first gig with Pony. So he did a really good job, and I hope he's recurring. And I'm so happy that Kelly's just done such a great job as Starlight both last season and this season. I still find it funny that she's the voice of Barbie as well, but I mean she's really done a great job as Starlight, and she totally deserves to get that top billing in this episode because she did such a good job. And it definitely says something about the direction the series can go, where you have this new character be the focus of a two-parter, and have that character get the top billing in the credits too. Anything else for the voice actor? I mean, it was great hearing. I think, like I said, I already said this earlier, but Andrew Francis as Shining Armor was great in this, and just his when that scene where they're getting off the train and he's just spouting random crap like oh, of course your brother, why do you think I wouldn't be here, I'm your brother, it was just so humorous, and this is so well delivered. And he and Britt as Cadence did a really good job in this, but it was just great hearing more of Andrew, because like I said, we don't see him enough in this series.
Let's see, I was going on Derpy Brew. I love how they've got the cracked armor tag for him, just acting kind of like all male Twilight, with him just all messing around. Unkempt mane and bleary eyes.
Yeah, I mean, like I was just saying, I can't really see many series pulling that off, where you have a new character that was introduced as a villain last season and make them pretty much the focal point of this two-parter opener here this season. Anything else for the voice acting? Who was Flurry Heart? Wasn't it was it Tabitha? That voice?
Yeah,
Flurry?
Tabitha was the baby. Yes.
The baby.
Gotta love the baby. I regret nothing.
I knew someone was going to reference that eventually.
How can you not? That's the only thing I call. That's the only thing I was thinking about the entire episode, why they were calling him the baby.
It also ruined the joke, because I didn't know they weren't going to name her until the right end of the episode. Because if you guys remember, I had to leave near the end of the episode, right when they first showed Flurry. So right before I left, I typed a joke saying I thought that I wasn't hearing the dialogue because I was on my way out, and I thought Flurry Heart, they already mentioned her name, so I typed in the joke. We named her after her eating at McDonald's. That joke fell flat because I didn't know that they hadn't said her name yet. Because I saw Flurry Heart on screen, I had to literally go at that moment, so I had to type the joke in fast and leave. I wasn't even paying attention to what was going on screen. I just saw Flurry and then I typed a joke.
Okay, let me download this image here and where is image overlay? Let me drag this in here because this is a point I wanted to make in the character section. I just remembered, but since we're talking about shining armor and him going crazy, I guess I have to say that this episode canonizes my Skype avatar. I don't have it here on the Google Hangout, so I can't show it because that's tied to my Google account. But on our administrative stuff behind the scenes here at CQ and on our Skype call, I have googly-eyed shining armor as my avatar on there. And I've had that ever since a while back when we did a comic reading of with EJ about it, and we had this googly eye joke going on for like an hour. So here's the comic page. It's from the comics of the shining armor, and someone put googly eyes on him in this, and so this is my avatar, and that was pretty much more or less him in the beginning of this episode, which gave me a good laugh because I'm like, oh, my avatar is now canon. Oh, so that's there he is. There's shining armor from the beginning of the episode.
Now we need to put googly eyes on the stressed out about shining armor for this episode.
Yes, we just need to put googly eyes on him for the entire episode.
It would make it would make the unkempt and shining armor from when we first see him in this episode even more ridiculous.
Let's see. Well, I think we can move on now to the next part, which is the oh, come on. Let me go to the next. Come on, go to the next slide. There we go. Which is the humor, which, as I said, this is probably one of the most humorous two-parter episodes we get, because they're normally, they have, not to say they don't have humor in them at all, but they're usually, the overall tone is a little bit more serious. This one, even when we're doing stuff like Flurry Heart causing all this disaster, it's still done even in a kind of a lighthearted tone. Even the first episode ends with a zoom in on Flurry Heart, and after all this, the Crystal Heart's broken and all this disaster has happened, she's just there smiling, and then it goes to the credits with a really upbeat Flurry Heart theme music. So this is definitely a little bit more of an upbeat one. So there's a lot of humor. So if you want to go ahead and start talking about that, I'll be right back. I just gotta go and grab something.
Is that still a mood whiplash instead? Was that music almost still a mood whiplash as opposed to switching to the MLP theme?
It was not quite to the same extent as the MLP, but it was more like swing time, ragtime almost. It was still very upbeat, but it wasn't like as much from it there. But speaking of Flurry Heart, I do happen to love a lot of the humor was just that, again, kind of like with the baby cakes with, Pinky just being dragged all around the area with, who was it, Pound Cake, like dragging her around, and Pumpkin, having all those magic bursts. It was like just Flurry Heart was just the two of them rolled up in one. The Flurry Heart who's flying around almost effortlessly and just effortlessly dragging Pinky around, just not even noticing the extra weight. Teleport spam of not just herself, but also her parents, as well as the main six, just giving them the whole entire run around. Shining armor as well. I mean, like Rain said, he had just the entire time. The whole behavior is just a little erratic from being the stress of a father, repeatedly falling asleep. And to be perfectly honest, it is kind of something like that. If anyone actually ever has kids, just the stress of raising a baby is very much truth in television here on that.
It's even more hell as the baby is super powered.
Yeah.
I'm back. I made tacos because it's Tuesday.
You have Sonata staying over.
So I don't really feel like muting my microphone over and over again. So if you hear some crunching, it's just me enjoying some delicious tacos.
Let's say, let's see, what else do we got here? One of the things, I think one of the more amusing parts was like right here, Starlight just unable to find her way around the Newcastle friendship. Complete with her basically inadvertently referring to it as like essentially a castle-sized TARDIS, being bigger on the inside. Also bursting in on Spike in the bathroom twice. Broom butts getting buried under its contents.
I love those scenes. When she just bursts on Spike. It's like, oops.
Well, not even that, but the second time he's like, and just sort of sheepishly stops when he notices her, which is, kind of a, call back to Parky wringing the confession out of him posing in front of the said mirror.
Yeah, that was we've seen him do that before.
So, what else? We've had Spike pulling out how he's considered a hero there. Faces the other ponies in the room, especially Rarity, just totally sells it.
I love I love each of the
I love how
reactions to that too. We all have this. Each of them has their own unique look of eye roll during that scene, except for Starlight, who's like mildly interested, like actually kind of confused, like in surprise that Spike would even be some sort of hero.
Saying it makes sense. Let's see. I know that when actually in the Crystal is actually trying to delay talking to Sunburst by getting Spike to ramble about his heroic exploits in the Empire, even rolling up, on top of a reclining chair and start to eat popcorn after she can't get him to talk about the equestrians.
Yeah, she just pulls out this popcorn out of nowhere.
So.
Using the power of Discord to just make some popcorn appear.
I think one of my favorite parts was like right at the near when the book got destroyed, the spell from the book that was destroyed. Twilight's like, I only read it once. Let's say,
and yet she's still almost able to write the spell from
this
memory.
was a nice little build-up. Yeah, and was almost able to perfectly recall it from memory. Yeah. Let's see. Another one where there was like a.
I think we may have lost Mr. Ben there.
Again.
I have to agree that the interaction between Starlight and Spike, I already said how much I love it, but it really was one of the most, some of the most fun of the episode too. Just they played so well off each other, like even better than sometimes Spike does with Twilight, and I just loved seeing the back and forth, like in the glares that Starlight would give him at certain points, like when he volunteers to help her and just go at the beginning, go through Twilight's list. And there's another one. Oh, when's that? There's another one that's even better. Oh gosh, let me see. Where is that one? Oops, no, I went too far. Let me go back.
I don't know why Hangouts wants to just automatically mute me as soon as I join in.
Yeah, it does that.
But,
actually, sometimes it does that for me. There's a lot of people, but there's only 3 of us, so that must make sense.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, as I was saying before, Hangouts just randomly dropped me. was Sunburst's response after Starlight bringing up her shame of stealing Pony's cutie marks and attempting to change the past. Sunburst. And I also happen to love how, like, right after, the crystalling, when Fleur has, like, about to sneeze, everyone's like, hit the deck! Nothing but just a sneeze.
I love it how both Starlight and Sunburst are trying to cover up their past, and like Sunburst is like pouring that cup of tea or whatever, and just like is not even paying attention to it overflowing, as she's kind of covering up like. I don't have anything. I don't see what my past has to do with anything. She's just talking really fast and high and stuff. And then of course Sunburst kind of does the same after that as well, as she turns the question around on him. Let's see. There was another part I'm looking for, but gotta find it in the episode here. I like how Sunburst knows several magic spells that would force them to pick up their friendship where they left off.
Yeah, that was kind of unexpected as well.
I do like the part of the checklist where Spike gets to where it's like, and now let's just if nothing else works, then get them both to discuss something that they regret, and they just have the best they both have the best reaction to that. And then she just carries Spike away, wrapped in the list. It's a great moment in that next scene too, when Starlight's saying how she might never be able to make another friend, and then Spike tells her that well, at least you have me and Twilight as friends and stuff, and gives her a hug. That was a nice, touching moment. His special talent is that and making books levitate. Still trying to find this second glare that Starlight gives Spike, because it was really funny. Let's see.
And of course, that image I posted on the Slack of Twilight and Starlight.
Why does it sound joined in twice?
Welcome to my world.
Mr. Ben has been doubled.
And there goes the...
And of course, that screenshot I posted in the Slack, if you notice it.
Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah, I see it.
Yes, that's folks, that shot that actually exists in the episode.
I really wish Google Hangouts.
I don't know. I can't find what I was looking for. Yeah, the trio and the waiting there for the crystaling to begin. So anything else with the humor?
I really can't think of anything else.
While abusing her princess status.
See. Where did my window go? There it is. Okay, how about the animation and the visuals of the episode? What's everyone have to say on that? I'll be right back. I'm just gonna run and get another taco.
Oh, I should have posted that image and then we got the animation visuals.
See, what's a good one here? I was originally I like how the crystal heart was shown, just cracking and just completely shattering. Loving how animation on the whole. So both of these episodes were really fluidly animated. Flurry Heart in particular, just flying around, her magic just zapping things. Stuff was just really well done. Let's see. I think one of the best things that we've had in regards of just also animation was like Sunburst and his whole outfit. I think was really well done as well. Especially the little minor stuff like when Sunburst's glasses like right down his muzzle, and he just sort of like pushes it up with his own.
Hello? Anybody? Oh, great. Looks like I'm by myself. For a minute, I couldn't tell if my internet dropped at that time. It was Ben's.
Okay, I'm back. Yeah, the animation during the scene where Luna and Celestia are fighting off the storm clouds was really, really good.
I'm about ready to just flip out and just toss this damn thing out the window.
Do you need Elliot to help you do that? That probably wasn't the best time to make that reference. Sorry.
There's also I really liked Starlight's new look as well in this episode. Her new hairstyle was fitting. I mean, it's kind of an awkward hairstyle, but it fits her kind of awkward character that she has now as she's trying to find her place to fit in. And Sunburst's entire design was great. I loved Sunburst's design with a little little goatee going on there. How about the Crystal Heart? The animation on the Crystal Heart spinning was noticeably a lot more cool than it was in the season 3 premiere. I don't know if it was a 3D asset or just a motion blurred 2D asset, but it looked really good when it was spinning really fast. And of course, the whole animation of it breaking up into 1,000 pieces and then coming back together was really well done. That might be a 3D thing because that would definitely be something that'd be easier to do in CG. It's really hard to tell anymore. What's what? No matter what it was, the heart The Crystal Heart animation was really well done. There's also a lot of good framing in this episode, like when they're inside the castle and you can see Celestia and Luna battling the storm and slowly getting more and more engulfed by it outside through the window. A lot of things, little things like that, like framing wise and layout wise, that were done really well in the episode. Yep. It's more and more backgrounds they had to do for that, in addition to all the new characters. Okay, anything else for the visuals and animation? I'm sure there's more stuff I could point out, but I don't really feel like scrubbing through the entire episode to remember what they were. But it was really some really well done stuff here. Also, those wings, damn. Big wings for a baby.
Flurry Heart, or is not just as Cadence Chang Armor's legacy, she's also Larson's.
Larson is the real father of Flurry Heart.
Oh.
And not Jerry Hoofer. Or would it be Mari in this asset?
Let it go. Let it go. Oh yes, of course. How could I forget? We get the return of the crystal forms in this, so we get to see all the ponies as crystals.
Oh yeah.
Again,
Yeah, I forgot about that.
including
Yeah.
Celestia and Luna this time.
See, I remember both Celestia and Luna looked really nice as crystallized.
And Starlight as well. I mean,
That's true. Yeah.
Starlight's new hairstyle was really cool, but her crystallized hairstyle I liked even better. Yeah, oh yeah, it's very true. We did kind of forget to talk about Celestia and Luna. They had a small purpose. This episode they actually did a bit, even though they didn't appear and like have a ton of dialogue in the episode. They did play a major part in terms of actually. They didn't just sit around and let Twilight handle this by herself. They went out and they actually battled the storm and held it back to give them more time. So they were really actively participating in the episode.
Yeah, like I said, this was like one of the few times we've actually got to see that. It was nice to see them actually active for once.
Mm-hmm.
That on screen.
Yeah. Let's see. Anything else for the animation visuals? I'm trying to quickly finish my taco here. I think the music is up next. So.
Your favorite subject.
I know, right? It's a good taco. Lots of cheese makes a good taco. Yeah, so it was great seeing them battle. Take an active part in the episode. And I did like how I said before, I liked how Sunburst delegated all the tasks out, and how everyone kind of had these different tasks that they were doing to perform that, the crystalling at the end. And of course, Sunburst gets the job. I forgot to talk about that, where Sunburst got the job as the crystaller of the Crystal Empire there. So, kind of being a kind of important guy now. Okay, let's move on to the music here. Not song. Actually, no songs in this episode. So this is another opening two-parter that didn't have any songs. Just like the season 2 one and the season 4 one. Okay, so this episode had a lot of themes in it that were reused, and a lot of really cool stuff. Especially Starlight Glimmer's theme, which gets of course makes an appearance throughout this episode for Starlight, but it's an altered melody in this one. A lot more lighthearted, not quite as sinister as her old one. So I think it really fits her new character. So let's kind of go through some of the songs here. I haven't really I did this so quickly on Sunday that I haven't had time to take any notes, so hopefully I'm able to find anything I'll talk about. So we kind of start out the episode right away here with the Princess Twilight Sparkle theme as Starlight's walking through the castle. Yeah, that's another thing I forgot to mention. Tim's mentioning there in terms of Starlight joining Twilight and the princesses to use her magic to hold it together. It speaks to just the magical power that she does have in it. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that one, Dark. And we get to see the flashback again, and Spike kind of breaks the fourth wall during it, and the Philly Starlight sees him and kind of reacts to what he's saying. I really like this little part here at the end of this track. Okay, let's see. Oh, whoa. Yeah, I forgot that was unmuted. There we go. I know, I forgot to do this. Okay. There we go. Now I can hear him.
Hello.
Okay, let me just, I'm just trying to find the next piece of music I want to talk about here. I don't think there's anything in here. Oh yeah, here we go. The beginning of this next week kind of here's a little bit of drop of Starlight Glimmer's theme from the season, used a lot in the season 5 premiere and finale. But this is kind of a little altered melody for the new Starlight here. Let's see, and this next track here is I really like this one. This is the backing track for when Spike's giving the history of the crystalling on that little vase pot thing. Oh, here we go. This track here is another better reoccurrence of Starlight's theme here. Oh, this part's good. You can't really hear it there, but in the actual episode, that's where it's kind of zooming out on Starlight. She's kind of having the internal freak out, and it's in the center channel, so you can't hear it on the BGM rips here. But they bring in that really high pitched kind of electronic kind of squeal feedback noise during that. I guess suddenly cuts off when Twilight interrupts her kind of thought process there, and I really liked that. It was really kind of really strong moment. Oops. There we go. My screensaver went on. Okay, let's see. What's the next track? There's a lot of other little themes from previous seasons scattered throughout here, but I'm just gonna skip through them because there's 25 tracks of music here. Here we go. So then we get to the flashback scene. Again, when Twilight is refreshing her memory of who Sunburst is, or not, when Starlight is refreshing her memory who Sunburst is. And I like that they did this because it kind of, if you forgot or weren't really familiar or for some reason didn't see the season 5 premiere, it gives you some backstory, but it isn't just Starlight giving exposition for no reason, because she's telling it to Spike, who of course wasn't there in the season 5 premiere. So he doesn't really know anything about, the season 5 ending either. So it's I don't think he knows much about that. So this is the same motif that they used in the season 5 finale when they had the flashback there. Oh, this track kind of continues here with some variations in Starlight's motif. And here's this wonderful theme here for when the crystal music comes on. Next. Pardon me while I'm just fast forwarding through here to find the next thing I wanted to talk about. Okay, here's the next thing. This is the score from behind Shining Armor being a little tired here. Love the little woodblocks and waffles in the background there. see. I believe this next one. So now we get into the introduction of Flurry Heart here, and Flurry Heart has her own little motif that appears throughout the episode. So it first appears here in the track "The Baby." Nice little orchestral part here from Celestia's talking. Obvious Pinky moment. Let's see, what's the next one here? Ah, here we go. Now this next one here has kind of become Celestia's motif since season 4. This track was first used in the season 4 premiere. It was used when let me just pull this up so I can see its other uses here. It was used in the season 4 premiere when Twilight first freed at the very end of the episode, when Twilight freed Celestia and Luna from the vines there, and they were being freed and kind of walking towards the camera there. Let me see if I can, because that track was saving Twilight in the tree. Where is it? Here it is. Okay. Oh no, I was wrong. I forgot. That was actually was from season 3. Gosh, let me pull that up here. So many tracks now. It's hard to keep track of. Season 3 is here. I believe it was this track here from the season 3 premiere. Right here. Let me see if this is the right one. Yeah, it was definitely this here. So that was first used in the season 3 premiere at the very end when Princess Celestia tells Twilight that she passed the test there. It was then used again at the end of the season 4 premiere. It was used again at the end of Twilight Time, and then it was used again in the track "The Princess of Friendship" from the season 4 finale, and that's when Celestia is saying to Twilight that she is the princess of friendship at the end of that episode. Let me see if I can see if there's any other ones that it was in. I think that was might have been it. Actually, was it in this track? Let me see. Maybe not. Okay, it might have been a few other things anyway too, but here it is. It kind of is taking a role for being a motif for Celestia, and it appears here in at the end of this baby track here. Here. So that's another theme there that's been used quite a few times in the series. Let's see. And now here's Starlight Glimmer. This is from when she's from trying to stall Spike here. So here's some more of her reworked motif for this episode. So then we get to Sunburst's appearance, and he kind of has his own little theme motif here. It's kind of based off of the same motif that was used for actual Doctor Who's from the episode 100. You'll hear some of that theme mixed in with it as well here. To get to the part of the motif I was talking about here. I think it's in this track. Here it is, right at the end here. So they kind of used that little theme for Sunburst here a few times, and that was again used for Doctor Who's in the episode 100. If you recognize that there. Let me see if I can find. Here's some more. I think we get some more baby Flurry Heart in this next one here. Okay, it's some more of Sunburst's theme. And here's the end of the first episode, where things get super serious. Which leads us to the credits, and this is actually the first two-parter episode that has a different credits music for the first part. We've had quite a few two-parters. Two-parters are usually where the credits music is different until season 5, the second half of season 5, when they started using it more frequently. But this one actually has we don't even get the My Little Pony theme in the credits in this episode. We get two different ones for each episode. Which I'm assuming hopefully we'll be getting more of this season, just like the end of season 5, being that Discovery Family doesn't cut the credits for ads like the Hub used to do. So in the credits of the first episode here, we get a nice clean version of Flurry Heart's motif. Yeah, this was pretty much Winter is Coming, the episode. Let's see. So going on to episode 2, part 2.
Those are tanks for the memories. These Winter is Coming, the episode. We have a lot of Winter is Coming episodes in this show.
Let's see, that's fine. I don't remember that track being that short. Okay, let me see. So here's some more of this while they're fighting the store, and I really like this, how this really kind of action music here. You throw in the sleigh bells here because it's winter. There, I forgot that was in here. So that little theme that I was showing before, the one that was used for Celestia a lot. Here we have it used in a very kind of actiony kind of context here. As this is right when the scene when Celestia and Luna are fighting off the winter here. Let's see. Okay, this track here is just like all baby blue hair. Okay, that continues there. Probably missing some stuff here as I'm skipping over. Okay, nothing in there. Usually I have this written out beforehand so I don't have to seek through all these songs to find what I wanted to talk about. Here's the scene, where it evacuated. See. This is next one here is the score from behind when finally it's revealed to Starlight and Sunburst what each other the real backstories for each other and what their pasts are really like. That's the moment I was looking for when I was looking for this Starlight face. It's when Spike says she's more of a student than a protege. She gives him this glare.
Surprised. You always knew so much about magic. I mean, look at all these books.
Yeah, well, reading about magic is one thing, but you don't know what it's like in magic school. To know so much and not be able to...
Okay, then get some nice score after that for Starlight freaking out.
If I had reached out, you would have helped me in magic school.
We've heard this theme here last season as well. This particular one here is the flashback music, the Starlight and Sunburst flashback music.
You showed up thinking I was some big wizard. Should have told me the truth.
Kind of their theme for both of them.
Twilight would be proud of us. Well, if you never want to tell her about it, we should probably leave now.
Okay, let's see. A couple more tracks here. Okay. This last one has most of the themes in it. Okay, let me fast forward here. This is another track that we had in season 4. As we get into the finale of this episode, it's actually very fittingly, it's the same exact motif that is used at the finale of the season 3 premiere, when the Crystal Heart is powered up in that episode to defeat Sombra. It's actually the exact same theme that's going to be. Should be right here. it's a nice reuse of the season 3 score there from the finale during the same time when the crystal heart is being powered up in that episode. So it's pretty much the same thing happening on screen, more or less. So they picked the same score to use for that, which I think is a nice choice. So we end the episode with this track here, which encompasses the last kind of epilogue scene here. We start it with Starlight Glimmer's Reformed theme. I really like this theme, by the way. We're gonna get to this the final track here. This one here is gosh, let me find out where. I'm trying to remember where this one was used here. It's really become one of the new kind of concluding themes, motifs for the series, much like the different letter writing themes were used. It was first used in the let's see, let me find the oh crap, dang it, typos. There we go. I think this was the first time it was used here. Yeah, that was that. So it was this particular theme that's coming up next was first used in the season 4 finale when Twilight had taught Discord a lesson about friendship, and Discord was giving her his Discord was giving her her key that she had earned there. Then we have it was used again in the season 5 premiere, the cutie map at the beginning of the episode 2, after the cutie map had appeared there. So here's this one here. Definitely one of my favorite motifs from the series, and it's used in a very similar context here to how it was used before, as here Twilight has been able to help teach Starlight Glimmer about friendship here, much like she did for Discord in the season 4 finale. A little nice concluding theme here.
No thanks to me. I know why. I just wish I could give my people the attention she deserves. I know she deserves. How? Give her the solution to the decisions would freak out. Isn't that how Semester's hard to do? You know, I never thought about it. But I guess it is.
This is kind of end of the track there is a little very based on the Starlight Glimmer theme there as well. You can kind of hear that little da 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 little part going on in that track, with a lot of new other new elements added to it. I really like that ending track there. It was a very nice way to end episode. And so there's just one more track, and that is, like I said, there's another credits song, because the credits music for both parts was actually changed, which was awesome. So this is the crystalling music. So this was the part of the theme that was used in the Crystaller track when Sunburst was performing the crystalling there. So this is also the one that is partially the part of it's the season 3 motif I was talking about earlier. That was that one. So hopefully we'll be getting more music in the credits this season, because it's a nice way to get little 30-second clips of themes that are completely clean of sound effects and voices, which is something you really can't get without actually getting it from the source. So about the closest thing we have to any sort of soundtrack release there. So that's all the BGM. There's a lot of themes that I skipped over that are more minor themes that also appeared in this episode from previous episodes. I skipped those over, but mainly the really cool things I liked about this episode was, again, using Starlight Glimmer's theme and bringing that back from season 5, but then altering it slightly to give it a little bit more of a positive feel to it than it had. That had the more sinister feel from season 5. To fit her new character, and I like that they kept the theme, but they changed it, which is very similar to what they did to the character herself. And then again, hearing more of the season 3 score brought back from the season 3 premiere, which hasn't been used much outside of this episode and the season 5 finale, when we of course went back and into the Somber universe. There, it was part of that was used, and just some really great new stuff. Particularly. The track at the end there was really nice, and a lot of my favorite motifs from seasons 4 and 5 were brought back in this episode too. Like I said, the Princess Celestia motif that I was talking about earlier, and the Friendship is the Key motif from the season 4 finale are two of my favorite motifs from the series, and it's always good to hear them brought back. So. Hey, Mr. Ben's yellow now. Yay.
Yeah, I'm just messing around with my laptop here, my new one anyway. I got MIRC, and I'm just messing around with the scripts.
You're just starting to get that set up?
Yeah.
So that's all I have for the score. So obviously there's a lot of scores. There's 25 tracks of score that I got from this episode, which ties the season 5 premiere, which also had 25 tracks of score, not including the song, which was the most that we've had. I've been able to from a single episode, if we count the 2-parters as one episode, obviously, which is great. Of course, this episode had no song, so there's always a lot more score. For that, and I do have to say that's one thing I did want to mention in the songs, the song section we skipped over, is I'm happy they didn't, and that's something this series does really well, is they didn't try to shoehorn a song in here, because they could have easily said, oh, it's the season premiere, let's bring an awesome song in, but there really wasn't a part of this episode that really needed a song to help the story get along at all. And they didn't try and force a song in. They didn't need a song to help tell the story or provide character development or anything here, and so it didn't have a song. So I'm sure a lot of other shows in a similar situation would have crammed a song in there, maybe a song about Cadence singing to Flurry Heart or something like that. Who knows? But it wasn't really needed, so they didn't use it, and that's something that I like about this series the most. Is just because they really do take their music really seriously. And the songs really always have a purpose in the episode and to drive the story or character development forward. So, I was happy to see that. So hopefully we'll get some songs soon. We'll definitely see what we got coming up in just a few days' time here already. So, yay, season 6 in full swing. So finally, let's go ahead and we'll talk about the theme and the moral of the episode. What did everyone think about the episode's moral?
What moral was there? Aside from don't be a well, actually no, that doesn't really apply.
Don't be a baby that doesn't have control of its magical ability.
Yeah.
Don't be a flurry.
Being that this was a kind of a dual story episode, we kind of had a couple different morals going on. In a lot of it's more about an overall theme rather than a solid moral, like don't do drugs or something like that. It's more about an overall theme about forgiving yourself and moving past your past wrongs, and you can't let your past wrongs hold you back in the present. We kind of got that last season with the Luna episode, although that one was more about strictly forgiving yourself for your past. This one was also about forgiving yourself from your past and don't letting it affect your future. You got to be able to move on. You got to be able to make new friends, and you can't let your people. You can't let your worry that people will find out anything that you've done in your past prevent you from moving forward, which is what Starlight was doing here. She was still so centered on afraid that people were going to find out all the nasty things she's done in the past. She was again having trouble making any friends. And so that's one of the morals. And I think the other slight moral was again the lesson that Twilight learned about, if you're a teacher, sometimes it's best for, let your students you got to find stuff out on their own. This might be even something, kind of a lesson that more parents can take in watching the show. So if your parents are watching this show with their kids might learn a lesson about Starlight, about forgiving yourself and moving on and finding friendships, and how everyone has shortcomings that we have to admit to and move past. But then also a lesson for the parents here at the end, saying, sometimes you can't be a hover parent. You can't just follow your kids around and make sure sometimes you got to let your students or your kids or whatever go out and find their own path and find their own way to reach their goals, or find their own way to reach the solution to their problem, like Starlight did in this, where Twilight gave her guidance, but in the end it was Starlight who had to find her own way to find her solution and learn lessons along the way there. So it's kind of like a little secondary lesson there, probably more geared towards older like parents and stuff, which is nice to have in this kind of show.
Yeah. So I've known a number of overprotective parents who just is like, yeah, you kind of have to let them go. Let them take chances, make mistakes, get messy.
Yeah. Let's see. Just reading what the chat says here too. Okay, so we gotta start. We're coming up on 8:30, so let's start concluding this. What are everyone's favorite parts and concerns about the episode?
I guess when they found the book, that was like, yes, this will actually help us, and then Flurry Heart just inadvertently destroys it like 2 seconds after they find it. And like, LOL, nope.
It's funny, Beam, because I remember when you watched the episode, your stream skipped after you were like, let me guess, the book got raped.
Yeah. Yeah, because the whole thing just dropped, but then everyone was like saying in chat room, and I was like, okay, let me just guess, the book got destroyed, didn't it? And everyone's like, yep, I figured, yeah, called it.
See, yeah, I don't have any concerns. I really, really like this episode, and it's really grown on me. I mean, I wasn't gonna call it, like, after I watched it, I wasn't gonna call it my favorite episode of the series or favorite two-parter. And it may still not be my favorite two-parter, but it was really good, and it's really improved the more I watched it and more I'm able to kind of grasp the episode and let its kind of themes sink in. I really, really like what they did with it. I don't really have any concerns. I mean, I mentioned earlier about how some of the plot was predictable, but it wasn't really in a bad way. It was just kind of obvious what was coming, but they pulled it off in a really entertaining way, and it had some nice twists and turns in there as well. So that's not even a concern for me. My favorite part is twofold. One, that again the producers of the show staff and crew are able to are willing to try new things and really are trying to keep things fresh and the fact that we have an episode here, I just love that it focused on Starlight, mostly on Starlight, rather than the main six for this two-parter. I loved what they did with their character. I love where they're taking their character, and I think it's really cool how they had this episode focus on her, and also just again her interactions with Spike and with Sunburst as well were really enjoyable to watch, and I think they pulled all of that off really well, and they pulled off the double story as well, the kind of the two stories. I can't what was the word I'm looking for? I can't kind of not congratulate them, but I really liked the two stories and how they came together in the end and kind of solved each other's problems. It was put together really well. So big props to everyone there, and even with all the show staff changes with the movie coming out and stuff like that, and we got Josh Haber as a story editor and writer of this episode, and he did just a fantastic job, just like he did with the season 4 finale. And I'm really interested to see where he takes the show, as well as the new directors with Jim Miller now supervising directing, and we have Denny Liu and Tim Stubby is also a new. Denny, of course, was one of the directors of the second half of last season, and Tim Stubby it was another animation director. He's now a director on this season. Tim Stubby and Denny Liu were previously the animation directors, if you're wondering where they came from. So they've been with the show since, I think Denny's been there since like the beginning too. So I guess love the direction everyone's taking the show, and it's great to see so many great people on staff that are continuing to make the show better. So can't wait to see where we go from here this season. Yeah, I still haven't gotten a lot of sleep, so I'm probably saying season 4 over and over again instead of 5.
Well, so long as you're not doing what I used to do and like mistake season for episode.
Yeah, I'm not quite going full out, Mr. Ben.
Is it season 100, whatever it is? Whatever episode number this is. Who, me?
No.
So,
I
what?
really can't say anything. I've done so many derpy things in here.
You just don't know what went wrong. The
so,
obvious reference.
Yeah.
So, I guess finally, let's just wrap this up here. We got about 3 minutes before we got to start Star Wars. So, what's everyone's overall feelings and conclusions of the episode?
The name of the ship is Starburst. Get it right. Oh, no, I'm just kidding. I don't really care. I really don't care.
I like
honestly.
I like Spike Light.
No, actually, I'm really looking forward to next Saturday's episode.
Oh yes, I think the title alone kind of seals the deal for me.
So
because who's popping up.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I don't really have much more to say.
He'll say this was a solid This was a solid opener of season 6. I'm looking forward to what Josh is doing for story editor and what goes on from here.
Yep, that's pretty much what I would say too. It was a great episode. It was a more complex story, kind of more complex layout than a lot of episodes we have in the past. They pulled it off really well. Josh knows his stuff, and he's shown in the season 4 finale. He knows the series, and he knows the characters really well. And he was able to write Spike really, really well in this episode. So I look forward to seeing what he can do for the show as story editor. I'm really looking forward to see what we have coming up in the coming weeks here in season 6. I'm really excited that we're back here. So, any other concluding thoughts?
Aside from looking forward to next week, I'm also looking forward to a few of the upcoming episodes. I'm not going to say which ones.
if you wanna if you wanna discuss some of the upcoming episodes, make sure to either check out the spoiler chat or our spoiler forum. There's a couple topics on there for discussing some of those episodes, and there's some big episodes coming up in the next 7 episodes. I'll just say that based on what I've seen so far. So definitely looking forward to that. So, well, thank you all for joining us today for our first season 6 Equine Episode Examination. It's great to be back talking about New Pony again. So thank you all for joining us tonight for that. And then next week, as we're talking about, we will be talking about the new episode that's going to be premiering this Saturday back at 11:30 a.m. Please make sure if you live in a different country, you double check your time zones. I think Britain's time might have gone to daylight savings this week or next week, so I'm not sure if any of the other time zones have been changing, but it will be at 11:30 Eastern Daylight Time. And not to spoil too much, but at the top, it's already on the front page of our site anyway. So the next episode is called "The Gift of Maud Pie." So we can all guess what this episode involves. So I'm definitely, just based on what I've seen, the little bit I've seen and heard so far, I'm definitely looking forward to this episode and seeing kind of where they go with it. And of course, more Maud Pie. How can you not want more Maud Pie? I hope she disses Discord again.
Yeah, that was awesome.
So and who knows if there's going to be changelings again. Well, there's also a discussion topic revolving that around in our spoiler forum as well. If you want to discuss any of your, I don't want to discuss anything here because it's speculation, but if you do want to discuss your theories about that changeling, make sure to check the spoiler forum linked on the front page of our site. Just go to the discussion forum link, and we got that. And we also have an episode discussion there as well. In the non-spoiler forum, the main forum, we do have an episode discussion of going on for this episode for the crystalling, and we'll have one next week for the Maud Pie. So if you want to write your thoughts about the episode, I know EJ and Tim have put something in there, and I have something I'm writing to put in there, but I've been so busy the past couple days I haven't really been able to finish it. So I'll put something in there too. But if you want to, come discuss the episodes with us there too, we got that as well as the spoiler chat.